What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome back to the Inside Wisconsin Show here on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. J.A., Merry Christmas, end of year episode, our best of, one of my faves. Good to see you.
Good to see you. And honestly, is it Christmas? I don't know. I feel like I have been blowing and going all summer, and then it was fall, and all of a sudden, like, Christmas is like, it's here. It can't be here. I need it to go back. I don't know if I can. I mean, it's already commercialized. Why not? Can I just move the birth of the baby Jesus back a few days just to help with some shopping?
No big deal.
Because it's like right now, like I have been so woefully behind that literally I'm like one of those songs. Do they know at Christmas time at all? I have no idea. If you say so. Every once in a while I see lights. But yeah, but that's okay. Big year, busy year. Happy to be the end of it, and we'll see what comes of it. But it appears at this point, the Anderson new house, there's not a tree, there's not a stocking. There's rumors that there's supposed to be garland going up in a fireplace. I'm not sure I know anything about that, but I'm sure I'll be clued into more here directly. Trev, it's a big time right now, buddy.
Yeah, man. I'm sure you got a box or two laying around,
but
it's
like,
good
hey,
to
let's
see
do
you.
A podcast. I'm like, hey, why not? I got nothing else. This is perfect. I am totally devoted to this whole next hour.
Good. Appreciate you. How'd the move go, though? You're there now. You're in the Missouri. What do we call it? The Missouri Bureau. That's it.
Yeah, I am in the Missouri Bureau. It's the move is gone. It's all here. There are a lot of boxes. Oh my gosh! I like. Let me start by backtrack and start by apologizing to all the spotted owls that I have put out of home in their nests by just the number of corrugated boxes I have here. I'm absolutely an environmentalist nightmare. I'm trying to recycle as much as I can, but good God, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I have
awesome.
I have a 3-stall garage, and my cars will not be in it until at least June. So there's just a lot happening here, and it is kind of an amazing thing. You moved recently, but I don't know if you handle, like, I had to sublet all this out, and so now you open a box and it says like kitchen supplies, and then you find like one slipper, and then you find like the kid's toothbrush, and like some old seashells that were in a bathroom, and then maybe there's a coffee maker. Well, that's not true, because it took us like 3 days to find a coffee maker. Like, it's just the randomness of it all. We're trying to embrace. Every time I open a box, it says, kids bedding, and you're like, imagine that. That's where we have a meat cleaver in with that. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I want to say
it's awful.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, it's crazy fun, though. You're in your happy place, and thank you for sharing the atmosphere of Kansas getting their ass whooped by Missouri. That was fantastic. None of that can air, obviously, but wow.
Yeah, that went well. Well, I've looked at the broadcast. Some of the celebration when the home folks sing "Mr. Brightside" by the Killers, that comes through. That ambient noise comes, like, there's no mistaking what is being said, and it is not the original lyrics. So yeah, and I'm beginning to think no one can read, because they flash beat KU on the scoreboard, and yet that's not exact. Well, they say KU. Anyway. So it's a lot of stuff, and we just keep bravely moving forward. And now am trying. The biggest part is, like, we put a lot of problems on the truck, and by that I mean, it's like, do we keep this or we don't? Just put it on the truck. Should this go? I don't know. Put it on the truck. Well, now all those problems that were on the truck are in my garage.
Yeah,
and
okay.
The hard questions are having to be answered. So
in there.
It's I'm actually enjoying this little small respite until something happens before 1983, and then you'll make me want to go put my head through a wall. But that's fine.
I don't think we're going to cover any of that today, but we are going to cover all of 2024.
I was there for that.
Yeah, yes, you were, as was I, and I remember most of it anyway. So 2024, the best of episode on the Inside Wisconsin Show. J.A., we had some incredible guests this year, and some unbelievable moments and a lot of viral moments. And one of the top ones that come to mind is Derek Mays talking about drawing stuff in the dirt with Brett Favre and how amazing the team was for Super Bowl 31.
Even though he was injured and didn't get to play in that game. Listen, he's such a smart, bright, like, it's gross, because he's like everything you figure that a Notre Dame athlete's going to be. He's good and he's smart and he, blah, 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 and he's connected and all that other stuff. But but yeah, or to find out that, that's where the back shoulder throw comes from, and that
Right.
Brett, backed him up. He's like, that's exactly right. I'm like, hey, who knew we were on the it's always fun when we stumble on a few things on the pro, which is the idea of talking to the guests, right? We know some of it, but we want to know the stuff we don't know, or the stuff that we should know that happens. So you marvel at what he said, and yet if you watched Favre play for 20 years, you kind of know, like, that's sort of what he did a lot of times.
That's how it went.
Was just like, okay, it's the old thing, like, you go long, I'll fake it to you, and then the other guy is over here, and you're like, so.
We
but,
stumbled upon.
When you have really good players like that, then you can do that.
True.
Right? Like when the guys are good and you're well oiled and you know exactly how it's supposed to go, then you can do stuff off the cuff. It's kind of the whole thing, right? Once you know all the rules and get them down, you can start breaking them. So with the talent and all those guys and how well they'd been disciplined under Holmgren and how much they knew stuff, they knew what they could do out of so much of that.
Right. We stumbled upon a guy named Pete Lee in 2024. That guy, quick friends. Wow. So funny.
I would like to update Pete. I don't know if you've texted him or not, but they're in the wildfires in Malibu. His house is very close, but he says at the moment the house is safe.
Good.
But just to be careful, he was going out on the road, as comedians do. He was taking his car to LAX and paying the exorbitant fee to park it there as opposed to Uber, because if it comes through, I guess the house goes down, that's fine, but he's going to need his vehicle.
That's wild.
So, yeah. So, but, and just, yeah, he was, like he went from, could you be on the show, to, gosh, you're funny, to just random texts throughout, hey, what are you doing? To now he's sitting with us in a football game, and then he's handing out pocket beers to people as he walks by.
Did he not give your wife a pocket beer on the way out?
Yeah, he did. Yep, he did. So, which is good, because she discovered him, really. She discovered him on the Tonight Show, and she turned it on to us. And then, like, so he's like, now he's staying at your house and whatever. He's got the old Pete Lee wing at the Thomas house, and it's crazy. Also
known as Rhodey's Room. He's coming back, by the way, for the December 23rd game. It's going to be Pete Lee Volume 2 at the Packers. Look out.
I don't, and it's funny that, well, we don't want to air all his laundry, but like, it's amazing that you got a lot of stuff at the dinner table.
Yeah. Guys going through some things. And that's why we housed a half a bottle of Macallan before we even went to the game. So
giddy up.
That's when the fight started. It was the year of the broadcaster. Listen to this. Andrew Brandt, Field Yates, Dan Orlovsky, Kevin Harlan, B.A., and Jeff Levering made a return. Man, and the John Anderson show, too.
Yeah, that one, thank God that's over. I can finally get you quit, badgering me about that.
Yeah.
And Andrew Brandt, although he does that now, he lectures there at Penn or Villanova, back in Philly, where he's kind of from and located. He's just fascinating because, before that, he literally was such a integral guy in the Packers, and to find out that you can make NFL transactions from emergency phones on a beach in Door County is kind of amazing when he comes through. Orlovsky, who I've known for a long time, that guy's just a savant, right? He just knows all kinds of stuff, which is crazy.
I wonder how happy he is that the Lions are good this year. Shoot him a text.
We could. The nice thing is he's like, and then it was him, and who was the other guy that just ran out? CJ Stroud went out the back of the end zone. So now that's off the hook too. For so long, I was like, oh, look, here he is. That was his whole, so many people identified Dan with running out of the back of the end zone or stepping on the end line. So now that someone else has done it and the Lions are good, he's still the sentence I never thought I'd say in my life. The Lions are good. 4 words that I just didn't think you could actually string together in that order. So yeah, I don't know. Do we have too many broadcasters? We should maybe get more pro wrestlers or something. I don't know.
I believe there is a pro wrestler from Wisconsin. I will try to track him down in 2025. Yeah. Well, no, there's more. I know that one, but there's more. We started the year with Pat Murphy, J.A. Man, manager of the year for the Brewers. What a year.
Well, he was just Brewers manager at the time. Now he's NL manager of the year, by the way. And I'm stunned. If I remember right, because it just happened, last month, he wasn't unanimous. I think he got all but 1 vote. Like, who didn't vote for that operation that he put together there?
Definitely should have.
Yeah, he was terrific and just a totally kind of different intensity level from what I remember when he coached the Sun Devils all those years ago when he was at Arizona State and I was working in Phoenix. It's just so crazy. But man, he knew what he was doing. He pushed all the buttons and he managed to finish 9 games ahead of the Cubs.
Yeah.
Who had other guy, I don't forget his name, but the Brewers' former manager that's over there now. And which is exactly how many games they finished ahead of beforehand. And without, now we'll see what he can do because Willy Adames is gone. Good luck with that. But, it's so like we knew that was coming, right? Like it wasn't a shock, but it's still just painful because that guy really over the last umpteen years kept the franchise together. He made the franchise, especially when Yelich for 2 years couldn't find himself, didn't know which end of the bat to hold. That guy held them together.
And it was a big homecoming this year. We had a really fun slice of cheese. Doug Gottlieb, the day it was announced that he was becoming the head coach of the University of Wisconsin Green Bay Phoenix, joined us and talked about all things being born in Wisconsin and wanting to coach college basketball. At the time of this taping, not going so well, 2-9, but
takes a while.
A lot of time in the future. Doug Gottlieb.
I don't, and I'm curious. Like I don't. They would be like, well, they were 18-14 last year. I don't know exactly how much was left when Sonny came, but he'll either get it together, which I hope he does, because obviously I've known Doug a long time and consider him a very good friend, or he won't, and then he won't have to worry about doing his radio show, during the day, and he can go back to coaching AAU. So. The man seems to have a plan, and he seems to be very much that's the blueprint, and this is the blueprint we will stick with, and it will win. And you'll see, right? Sometimes guys have a blueprint, and you've got to, give them a little runway to implement it and let it, see if it works. So he knows basketball inside and out. We'll see how well he knows coaching.
All of those moments and so many more. This is the best of 2024 on the Inside Wisconsin Show.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us.
Tell me what excites you about this opportunity that is different than San Diego, where you were a big league manager, but you were brought in to replace a guy. Like, I feel like this is your own thing now, wholly. But what is it about this that is unique and has you jazzed?
Well, no question. It's because it's the Brewers, and I've been part of it for 9 years. My eyes wide open. I was lucky enough to be standing there right behind Counts and seeing what has been arguably the greatest era in Brewer history. And when I did the San Diego thing, I was really fresh out of the minor leagues. I never spent a day in the big leagues, really. A couple call-ups, but never. And it was in the middle of the season, a team I didn't know, and I wasn't very good, and I wasn't ready.
And here we are, 9 years later, after you joined the Brewers, and you're ready. At the age of 65.
I better be.
Yeah, you're ready. I think you are. At the age of 65, though, and that's fascinating to me, right? Because so many people outside of the sports business try to get to 65 and retire. And here you are, literally starting the best part of your career.
The best is yet to come.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing up the age, though. It seems like a common theme for you.
Yeah, sorry. We'll get past it. When we were setting that interview up to chat with him, it was a year ago, literally this episode, 26 episodes ago. Olivia was like, he wants to do it because we called in a favor with Liv.
Yeah.
He's going to do it, but he wants John to come back and talk with us in the atrium because he's really proud of it.
Yes.
That was incredible. There was a moment, Kevin, when John does this all the time, right? 25, 30 years, whatever, in the sports business, yourself included. Me, not so much. And I'm sitting in the atrium with John Anderson and Bob Harlan, and I'm just going, how the hell did I get here? This is absolutely incredible. When you were the adult, though, as you were just mentioning, going through that whole tax thing, what were some of the things that maybe behind closed doors your dad was saying? Because, yes, it went through, and the Packers are who they are today because of it. I firmly believe that. But there had to have been some moments where it was like, holy man, this isn't going well.
Well, he would tell me the stories, and I come home from school or from wherever I was, visiting back in Green Bay, and it really wasn't him telling the stories as much as my mom, and how she was worried about his health and how he wasn't sleeping and how he'd have these sleepless nights and pace the floor and constantly on the phone dealing with politicians in Madison, trying to deal with aldermen and council people in Green Bay. It was complicated, and he got death threats. He got some very nasty notes, but he says at the end of the day, he always handled people. He said, you could call the Packers. Anybody could call the Packers and go right through to him. He didn't have a secretary that was serving as a shield or anything. You called the Packers and you'd say, Bob Harlan, please, and he'd pick up his own phone. And he felt like that's my position. I don't own the team. I'm working on behalf of the public and the board of directors and the executive committee to handle this position. So he felt like he was like a politician almost, in how he had to deal with the constituency all the time. And he would talk about the nasty calls, the hangups, and the obscenities that would be thrown his way. But he said the most gratifying not only was seeing what he had done, and with the help of many people on the staff, and all the politicians that had a hand in it, and there were hundreds of people that were involved. He said that the people that would call and hang up, the people that wrote the notes that were nasty and and threatening, he said those people all wrote back or called back and said, I was wrong, and you were right. And the vision you had was something that just the normal person couldn't have. And that was probably as gratifying for him as anything. But he felt it. He still has his health. He's still alive and kicking and doing well, as you saw just a year ago. But it clearly took a toll, but it came with the territory. And I don't think he knew it to that extent, but he knew it was going to be tough, and it was, and longer than he thought, and more. It only passed it like just a little over 50%. I mean, it was not a big wide margin. It just barely passed to get that money, but it came in under budget and on time. And again, another thing he was very proud of.
And now if you polled people, the vote was actually 80-20.
You're
The way it came through.
And all of them were at the Ice Bowl.
I was there for the Ice Bowl, right? Exactly.
And there's a certain way you're supposed to taste wine, and then you spit wine sometimes. Maybe the question is, how are you not hammered all day, every day? Like, how do you do this?
We do a lot of quality control, is what we like to call it. Yeah. And yeah, man, we do drink a lot. I'm trying to make that sound not so bad.
Well, but what's the there's got to be a way, right? I mean, how do you?
That's right.
You quality control your product. What's it about?
So, you can you use a lot of research and hey, what are we looking for when we say we want to do a wine a certain way? We say, hey, this is what we're looking for. So the yeast strains that you're using can dictate what you're looking for. But I actually kind of buck the system when they're like, you should taste like this or you have to taste like that. I don't think that's necessarily true, because I always tell people, I'm like, taste it how you would drink it at home. Like if you're a swirler and taking your time and, you do this kind of slurping, which aerates it, you do all that, and you're going to do that at home, do that in the tasting room, because that'll, keep the same. But if you're just going to have drinks at a bonfire with wine, you don't have to do, all the aeration techniques and those kind of things either. We kind of always say, at the end of the day, it's alcohol. We can relax a little bit. I know wine has a bit of a history of barrier to entry, and people will come in and they're afraid they're going to do it wrong. It's like, you can't do it wrong. It's personal. It's a very personal beverage. Is personal. You can't tell somebody you're not tasting, tannins, or you're not tasting cherries. It's like, no, that's what they taste. You can't tell them they're wrong. So no wrong answers in wine.
Yeah, I don't get buttery. I don't get oak. I don't get all these things. I try really hard for my wife's sake, who loves it, and I just can't. We went to some tasting one time, and the guy's pouring. He's like, "Look at was it the veins or something when they
the
come
legs?"
Down
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? Can't you just go ahead and just fire it back?
Yes, you can. We're pro that. Yeah.
By the way, we need to get churches back on board, because they just go grape juice. I don't know what the deal is here, but they are really hurting you guys.
We got wine
not
in
my
ours.
church.
What is it?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, Mogan David, Mogan Hagen.
Yeah,
I don't
Mogan
know.
David.
David.
Mogan
Yeah,
David.
Mogan David.
Yeah, Mogan David.
What are you drinking?
That's
MD 2020? Because
Yeah, Mogan David might have been.
Get a
Yeah.
little Mad Dog up there at the riser. That's awesome. Bring it on. I just feel like though, if I've never gone to any bar, any place and said, before we pour that, let's talk nutritional panel. Like there are things at stake here that we don't think of when we just like pour me a drink. Like what kind how did you get informed on some of these things, right? Because it's just so not what we think of, like we think of what do I want, a cherry or a orange light? These are the things I think about with my nutritional panel.
Yeah. And so this starts out as we were doing keto. So January of 2018, we were doing keto, and there's some people who will say, alcohol is not part of it. But I mean, we're from Wisconsin. Let's be real.
Giddy up.
I'm going to drink. So I had Googled vodka doesn't have any carbs or sugar. And just to be safe, like I would just use water and I would squeeze a lemon and lime that has a little carbs and sugar, but it gave it some flavor. And so I had Googled that and I knew that. As far as every can, like Michelob Ultra.
Yep.
That's part of why it has become, in my opinion, popular. It's got some decent flavor, but it has lower carbs and sugar. So it allows you to, maintain that lifestyle. But yeah, you're right. Like if you're mixing a vodka cranberry, we have a vodka cran that's no carbs, no sugar, 100 calories. But if you mix one at the bar, it's about 20 grams of carbs, 20 grams of sugar, 250 calories. You're exactly right. In alcohol, it's not required to put that stuff on the panel, so nobody's looking at it.
Right. How do I get by then? Because if you've been on this diet, that's the whole, I think, for a lot of people is no carbs, no sugar, like no thank you, because how could this possibly taste good, right? Like every time the person says, we have a flourless chocolate cake. No, you don't. If it doesn't have flowers, you have a brick. Like how, like I feel like that might be the biggest thing to get past.
Yep. You're 100% right, John. So that was our challenge when we came out is our can was meant to look similar to the other ones because we wanted to pull from that market. What you just said is exactly why I don't do a ton of social media marketing, because if you're scrolling and you see our can, it's like, oh, cool. It's the same as the last 20 that I hated. Mm-hmm. We focus very much on guerrilla style marketing, boots on the ground. 80% of our team is a boots on the ground sales force that is focusing on being a personal brand and going out and getting liquid to lips. For exactly that reason, our product is drastically different, but you don't know until you put it in your mouth. And I mean, I've launched with 50, 60 distributors, and I tell them a very in-depth story of how this came about. And I started interviewing them as I was riding with them afterwards, like, hey, how much did you believe me that our product was different? And they're all like, yeah, we didn't. So if the owner of the company who created the liquid can't convince you by way of conversation that this product is drastically different, how can I expect anybody else to? Because they've been sold the same story 30 other times and the products were all the same. Mm-hmm. So to your point, we invest very heavily on how do I get product into people's mouths, because that is what will show them that it is absolutely different.
You kind of keyed on it there at the end, this whole idea of being a Green Bay Packer alum, and you've gotten to do some incredible stuff as an alum of the Packers. What's been some of your favorites?
2 years ago, we went back and had the reunion of the Super Bowl. And that was, to say the least, one of the most fun I've had in a really long time. It was almost like you just won the Super Bowl all over again, without all the accolades and everything come along with it. But just seeing all the guys again, you get to see guys here and there. You do. I have a foundation here. Gilbert Brown has a foundation in Wisconsin. You get to see each other every once in a while when you help out with foundations. And when you come back every few games, you get to see a handful of players, but you don't get to see everybody. And that was a special year. I mean, winning a Super Bowl is, as people can tell, it's a difficult thing to do. One team out of 32 wins each year. And as soon as that game is done, some of these guys you'll never see again. Some of them won't come back. Some of them will retire, whatever. So coming back to that one is really amazing. And I think what I enjoy now is going to the events that the Packers put on, whether it's a golf appearance, sporting clay trap shooting that we do for the NFL alumni, yeah, things around town where I get to do charity work and community service. And I get to see some of the guys that I haven't seen, but I get to hang out with the guys who I used to watch, the guys from the 70s and 80s. And that to me is a lot of fun. You know, I get to hang out with David Whitehurst, Lynn Dickey, Paul Kaufman, lots of guys from that era. And it's just weird to me that I get to watch these guys on TV, and now I get to hang out with them. And it's so cool.
These are my people. These are my people. Trevor and I always argue about, like, he'll say, who's number 80? And he'll go, it's Donald Driver. I'm like, no, it's James Lofton. Right. Like, it's crazy. You talking about my people. By the way, have you ever had a big Ryan Fire reunion that you've gone to, or is that strictly more Super Bowl stuff?
I haven't been back to Germany since, but I wouldn't mind it.
So right now, as we speak here in February, and you said we've got this long, dark days, what's happening in the organization right now that's sort of what's grist for the mill that they're trying to get done before draft and the start of the new year, and et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, let me just say this. In my careers as an agent, as a team executive, and now media analyst, this is the busy time. It's counterintuitive. Players and coaches, they're done, right? They're done. So, and front office, me included, we would close the book on, say, 2023 on kickoff in September. Basically, you're done. So front office is basically done now. I did some extensions in season. I had to manage the cap, but it's basically just churn at the bottom of the roster. There's really very little to do other than bring in injury replacements and manage that during the season. Maybe that's a dark secret, but front office, little to do during the season. Coaches, little to do in the off season. Players gone. So what front offices are doing on two counts. Number one, which I was not involved with, but this gets a lot of fascination from people, is the scouting side. From the time the All-Star games end, which is mid-January, to they go to the combine, which is late February. So that's like a 35-day period. That's the grind, right? In the Packers case, all the area scouts come into Green Bay. Their only time of year, except a week during training camp. They all come in. They gather in that dark room with Gutekunst, and they go through it. They grind from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. They grind for these 35 days, weekends, nights, etc. And they put together the all-important board. Mm-hmm. So that's the board. And by the time they leave for Indianapolis on February 24th or whatever it is, it's basically done. There'll be some combine freaks where, like, oh my God, that 40 time is not what we expected. And maybe you move from a low second round to a high second round, but not much. It's pretty much set. So that's the scouting side. On my side, the financial cap contract side, it's multiple scenarios with the GM. What if we cut this player? Will we have guaranteed money left? What about the dead money on this player? Where are we going on this position? If we draft a player high at this position, that's going to kick out someone. Is that someone going to be a veteran? How are we going to deal with that? All kinds of scenario planning. And then, of course, the tenders for exclusive rights free agents, the restricted free agents, and, of course, the unrestricted free agents, which is the most important category. If you are about to lose someone to free agency, this is the key time to make sure you don't, if that's your plan. And then you go to the combine in late February, and literally I would set up shop in the hotel lobby, and their Chargers are over there, and the Broncos are over there, and the Chiefs are over there, you know, and agents are just coming through. John and Trevor, I went to 10 combines. I don't think I ever saw a workout. I never saw a workout. I was busy as hell those 4 days because you're negotiating with your agents for your players, extensions, keeping guys, but also other teams at players, not as much in Green Bay, but other. I remember one time I was trying to get my player through his agent, and his dance card was so full, I never had time for me. I'm like, I'm the team. You're tampering with all these other teams. So that's what happens at the combine.
Everything you just said is why I absolutely suck at fantasy football. because I don't have any of that. I'm not a GM. You two might be able to be a GM. I cannot. I'm really, really bad at that.
Okay, so I'm going to totally stereotype these sports, and then you can just blow this to hell for me if you want. But I see basketball guys, right? Like, we're big men on campus, we're divas, we're the guy, and then I see women's golfers, and I feel like they would be like, here, we'll show me the range, and they'd be industrious. Give me the difference between these two groups, or better yet, is there a common thread about being a good coach in no matter what lane you're in?
Well, I think there's definitely a common thread, because things you say can get you in trouble. Things you don't say can get you in trouble. And again, it's group dynamics and how do you handle people? Obviously, golfers have a little bit more of an individualistic element. You know, some of them did not love practicing in groups. Some of them did not love practicing in a way they didn't want to practice at. And a lot of them had their own instructors. So, you know, intervening at the wrong time is not a good idea. You know, basketball, obviously, you have to develop all the individual stuff just like golf, but there's a lot more connectivity to what your team is doing. And, you know, golf, it's technically a team sport, but you're essentially on an island. Like you're not making your teammates play better. You're just, if you don't, you kind of hang them out there. Where basketball, it's more, obviously a lot more intricately connected. And that was the major difference, is making sure those pieces fit. Whereas in women's golf, it was just making sure they were happy and confident and, you know, not give, you know, I'd watch coaches give people lessons on the range, and I'd laugh. My assistant, we'd say, okay, what hole do you think she'll start crying on? Because as you know, you can't change people's swings 20 minutes before they play. Right. So just understanding those elements of teaching was probably the hardest, the thing I had to learn a little bit about golf, but so there was commonality, but certainly differences.
You're a big golfer. John's a big golfer. I'm big and I golf. And I'm not good at it. There's a lot of room for error.
I always wonder what hole I'm going to start crying on as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, you probably have more fun, Trev, than us.
Totally common.
I do. Has a lot to do with that right there. Damn it, I'm not a weatherman. It's a Miller Lite. Yeah, big fan. John calls it swing oil. Anyway,
yep.
When Coach Moore made his reappearance at the Kohl Center this season, I don't think any of us were prepared for that. Maybe yourself included. I was at a little towny bar having lunch, getting ready to watch the Badger game, and all of a sudden that happened. I'm like, well, I'm bawling in public now.
Yeah,
what was that like for you?
Yeah, we knew, you know, obviously what they were looking to do here, and there have been a lot of tears from me and from hundreds of thousands probably of people who know him or know of him and know the story there. You know, I think they were looking to do this earlier in the season, but, you know, just some logistics and getting some of his teammates there, that didn't make it possible. But yeah, I was kind of nervous because they wanted me to introduce him. And I thought, you know, I can't cry now. I mean, I have 4 lines here. I can't screw this up. So I did all that before because I had seen the video. It had been months. And then I saw the video again. That, you know, John Roach and his group are putting together. So saw it on Tuesday of that week on the plane. We were flying to, I think, Bloomington, Indiana. Started crying there. There was a reception Friday night, the night before the game against Illinois. Kind of losing it again. And then Saturday, just the look, I'm looking up in the crowd, you know, ready to introduce him, and you could just see the look of surprise on the faces of the fans at the Kohl Center. And when Rashard Griffith brought Howard out, I'm not sure the place has ever been louder than it was that day, on that Saturday afternoon in early March. It was with Rashard Griffith there, Michael Finley, Tracy Webster, Chris Conger, Sean Carlin, teammates of Howard's back in the 90s. It was heartwarming and probably heartbreaking at the same time, because to know Howard Moore is to love him and to know his impact on the university, his impact even outside of the Wisconsin community. Butchie was working a game at Northwestern for television, and he was talking with Chris Lowry, one of the Wildcats assistants, and they were all watching, and the impact there. Howard's a Chicago guy, and I think anybody across the country with a college basketball connection who knows Howard tuned into that, and you couldn't help but just feel the emotion in the building that day. It was a day that no one will ever forget. And by the way, his son Jarrell spoke at halftime, and he was flawless. Senior at Middleton High School, and he was, I was a little jealous. That guy was super smooth in his 2 minutes that he spoke to the crowd at the Kohl Center. Just a really mature kid, and I cannot possibly imagine what it's been like for him and the entire family over the last coming up on 5 years now.
Growing up in Janesville and finding that you're funny, what is it then that you learned about the Midwest, and why do people think that's funny? Because they friggin' do. It's stupid. They really do look at our life and go, is that real? Like, you really live that way?
Yeah. Well, I didn't really, I was doing probably my same sense of humor when I lived in Minnesota, and then I moved to New York City because I was like, I'm gonna go big time, and I'm gonna move to New York City is probably the best city for comedy. Almost every great comedian has lived there at one point, and but like a lot of the comedians there, their point of view is pretty mean. It's pretty edgy. It's and so I was like, all right, well, maybe I need to adapt to New York, because I was a young comic and I was kind of putting on different hats. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll be edgy. And I would go up there and be edgy, and the crowd would be like, we're not buying it. And then I would like kind of tell a mean joke, and they're like, you don't feel that way. And I spent like 3 years in New York City, where I would go out on the road every single weekend, and I would crush all around the country. And then I would go back on stage on Monday night in New York City and just bomb my face off. And I was like, I do not know why I can't get these people. And then finally, there was these bookers in Long Island that saw me bomb in New York City, and they're like, they own this comedy club called Governors, and they're like, yeah, we want you to come out and work our club. And I didn't know that they just saw me bomb so hard, and they would all laugh so hard at me bombing because they thought my material was funny, but they just thought it was fun to watch me bomb. And they brought me out to MC, and I would bomb, and I would like go home on the Long Island Railroad, just be like, God, I'm quit comedy. I can't figure this out. And they had me back 3 times, and I was like, why do you guys keep having me back? I go, I've never done well. I'm like, I'm good everywhere else. Like, just trust me. Like, I could show you video. And they go, we have you out here because we think you're funny, but like, it's so fun. It's so much more fun to watch you bomb. And I was like, oh, that's fun. That's so funny. And they go, you're just so nice that people hate you. And I remember that was the moment that it all clicked. I was like, wait, what? Like, I'm an alien here. Like the thing that's unusual about me is something that's so natural that comes from me, that's so radiant. And I'm not saying that all Wisconsin people and all Midwestern people are nice, but we have like even people in Wisconsin that are like, oh, I'm at work, I'm kind of a jerk. I'm like, even that is different than like a Long Island guy being like, I'm gonna hurt your mother, like it's just a different, we have a thing about us, like even real tough guys, they just have this like, oh yeah, I don't know how to say it, but so I had to like kind of engineer my own type of comedy. And what I try to do is I'm like, well, if nice stuff is funny, then I'm going to have to kind of take the comedy formula and do the photo negative of it. And I looked at a lot of the New York comedy, and their point of view was like, I don't trust nobody. And so I was like, what if it's funny if like I trust everybody? Because we kind of do walk around Wisconsin like, oh yeah, I just trust things are gonna go well. I mean, we'll get like blind drunk and be like, I'll walk home, and And so I started developing that, and then I remember I went out to Governors in Long Island, and I went out on stage, and I was like, hey, I've been here a bunch of times. Who's seen me? And people clapped, and I was like, can we just share? Can we laugh about something? Like everything about who I am, you hate it, right? And they started laughing. And then I was like, yeah, you don't understand this. Like, you don't, like, this is who I am. It's where I'm from, and you hate it. And I did like 10 minutes on how much people hate it when I'm nice. And I crushed, and I was like, oh my God, I found this thing. And, I started studying comics that I thought were a little bit like me. Ellen has that same kind of like, I'm super nice point of view. And then I don't know if she's really like this, but then she got canceled because she's secretly mean or whatever.
Mean as a snake.
Snake. Yeah. Gary Shandling kind of had a similar, point of view. And so I tried to study his structure. But yeah, I mean, it really is a thing that I just keep evolving it and trying to find what's funny about this, but it all comes from Wisconsin.
I love it. I made it through one segment without snort laughing behind the scenes. I muted myself once because I thought it was coming, but so far so good. The idea of Quick Trip is all about people. That's why we all drive out of our own way to go to a Quick Trip. Yes, the food's good, the bathrooms are clean, the gas is gas, but it's about people. And it's about our experiences in the store, the see you next time and so on, that makes us want to come to Quick Trip. The idea of serving people in a retail setting is bonkers, but that's why Quick Trip exists. It's to impact people's lives. And that's the whole idea of this. The Inside Wisconsin Show and Quick Trip are teaming up because Quick Trip doesn't like to toot their own horn. Pretty humble company. Well, toot toot. We're gonna toot it for them and tell these stories on how Quick Trip is impacting our lives literally every day. This is Impact, presented by Quick Trip. All right, so you roll into Quick Trip, and you have a couple two-tree car problems here in the North Woods.
Yes.
Sounds like you hit the perfect time on the perfect day with the perfect person to be able to help you through it. So will you tell us the story?
I was actually coming back from working with a friend from a job, and it was actually late at night. I think it was like 11:30 or something like that. I could hear my car kind of ticking, and my oil light was on, and I'm like, oh. And I pulled in here, so they got her, Shay, and she came out with me, and it started raining.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? I'm like, oh gosh. After we tried to get it off, we just couldn't. And she told me that it was probably seized up. And she showed me a trick, and actually it's been working ever since, to put it funnel, which we made a paper one. Yeah. And then she put it in the dipstick where it comes out or whatever. I had no oil. There was
none. There was none on the dipstick.
No. And I had a ways to go still, and I didn't think I was gonna make it. I thought I was gonna blow my engine.
My mom got diagnosed with cervical cancer when I was 12. And she passed away when I was 16. And then not having my mom, just kind of like wanted to do what I could to make sure she got home to her mom. So when you told me that, I was like, yes, I gotta do everything that I can in my power to make sure you got home to your mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they were very thankful. Oh my gosh, they were very thankful too that I made it home.
Christine, there's something about the Quick Trip brand that made you know you could stop here and ask for help. This impacted you so much that you went and wrote an email about it.
To have someone like Shay be recognized for going above and beyond when she didn't have to. I mean, for someone just to help is amazing. That there are people out there that are willing still to help other people.
It's no secret that Goody likes a lot of draft picks, though. However, I think there's a 100% chance that they do not pick 11 times. Do you move up beginning? Is it a shuffle at the end? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so if the offensive tackle run that involves the guys who are a little bit more ready-made right now goes a little bit slower than I am currently imagining it, then I think the possibility of moving up a handful of slots from 25 to 20 or 18 or 16, something like that, could certainly be addressed if you're the Packers. But I think staying at 25 has real appeal, just because of the fact that if they don't move, they still could get a corner, an offensive tackle. I think it's a little early for a linebacker. The best probably in this year's class is Edgerrin Cooper. Texas A&M linebacker who's got just off the chart speed. He was actually one of the best pass rushers in college football this past year. He had 8 sacks. The guy was all over the place for the Aggies during what was an otherwise disappointing season for them. He was kind of one of the few bright spots. But I think they can stay at 25 and still fill those needs. But if that run goes a little bit slower, which is hard for me to totally envision given the fact that so many teams need offensive tackles, but in an unlikely scenario where guys like Olu Fashanu or Tali Fuaga start to slip a little bit, then I think that's when Green Bay can pick up the phones and start thinking aggressively.
Can't wait for Caleb Williams to fall to 24, and they're going to be like, God, are we going to have to pick another quarterback? This is
again.
You mentioned at the top, right, that the draft is coming back here. It's going to be here next year, right? Somebody this week asked me if I was going to the draft in Detroit, and I'm like, absolutely not. I don't have any desire to go to the draft.
Right. Yeah.
But a couple 100,000 people do when it's here next year. Are we ready for that? What's that going to look like?
I don't know. So the question about are we ready for it? The Ryder Cup was at Whistling Straits, 3 years ago now in 21. I think we handled that pretty well. The U.S. Open was at Erin Hills. I think we handled that pretty well as far as an influx of lots of people. I don't know that there will be as many, or there were as many at the Ryder Cup, certainly from a number standpoint. I think it was 35,000 a day. So we're talking about a lot more than that. Is there going to be a cruise ship anchored just outside of Sturgeon Bay with all the rooms for, and then they run shuttles from Sturgeon Bay or Egg Harbor, Fish Creek, coming down to Green Bay for the draft days? Are people Airbnb-ing in Stevens Point and Wausau and Oconto and, parts unknown, Eagle River and Antigo, and then bussing in on I have no idea. Yeah, I think everything infrastructure-wise will be ready. I don't know where people stay. Who are the people? John, do you know who the people are that go to the draft?
I don't. I just know that the rental property I have in Pound, Wisconsin, I have jacked up the rates like you wouldn't believe.
Pound, Wisconsin.
Okay, this is going to be hard.
Okay.
Because they're both going to get in eventually. Okay?
Yes.
But I need you to pick one. Who goes in next, Sterling or Mike Holmgren?
I'm gonna say Sterling because Holmgren and Shanahan are canceling each other out. Both of them should be in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they will get in. But Sterling Sharp, to me, this is what I tell the voters, he caught 100 passes when it was a thing. Now, if you got fantasy, everybody catches 100 passes. And he should get the same projection that Terrell Davis got when he got injured, and my brother, Tony Baselli.
Mm-hmm.
If Tony Baselli wasn't injured, he'd be with Munoz. I mean, the guy was dominant for 6 years and from an expansion team. But Sterling Sharp in one of the smallest markets, 84 definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Ice cream truck drives through your neighborhood. What are you going to get when he stops?
Oh, that's a platinum question. I used to get yelled at. I just want a cup of vanilla. That's it. That's it. You got the boringest ice cream. You're so lame. I said, wait, but everything on this truck is probably made with some vanilla in it.
Okay.
So
I just don't want one of them orange push-ups. Give me anything but one of them orange push-ups.
I want something I know that's going to taste right, and it can't be on a stick. It has to be in the little cup with the little
wooden. Yeah, nice. So this is the last one for me because it'll be fun, and we'll get you back because I think people would be fascinated to hear more about your daughter that jumps horses and your daughter that is going to be a bass player in a band and all these other things, and just your journey through basketball, the people you know. Obviously, but you have ties to Dave Buss, who is the founder of this program. So just real quick, because I know your dad and he were close, just you're kind of like, you talk about the 10th coach, like you're tethered to the first coach of this program too, which is really ironic.
Yeah, it's interesting. So my dad took the Milwaukee job in 1975. I was born in 76. And if you remember, Title IX was 79. And right after he left, UWM went back to D3, right? Before before what Bo resurrected it, right? Was Bo took it out of D3 to D1. So yeah, I mean, that's like literally how it works. And what's interesting about it is, my dad was an unbelievable fundraiser back when he had the Panther backers, was what it was. So yeah, he knew all those guys. And then the other way in which I've connected with so many different coaches in Wisconsin is, and I don't know how many people know this, but my dad, and I've kind of done this for years as well. When he started, it was travel ball before his AU ball. When he started his teams, his big thing was every kid plays Division I basketball. That's my goal. Every kid gets a scholarship. And then, eventually he had like 6 teams. And so at some point, somebody said to him, like, Bob, why don't you make money doing this? Mm-hmm. So he ran, the last 15 years of his life, he had a placement service. And basically what he was like an NIL agent, but he charged the parents because in reality, the scholarship is incredibly valuable. It's life-changing. Mm-hmm. And so he would go evaluate a kid, say, hey, your son can play D1, D2, D3, this level, whatever. What's his grades like? Put together a highlight tape, and they would pay him based upon where their kid ended up. They ended up at the right level. Anyway, that job that he created allowed him to stay connected with all these coaches. So there's not a gym that I have ever gone in where there's not a guy on staff. And my dad's been dead for 10 years in November. And there's not a gym I've ever walked into where there's not a coach like, hey man, your dad used to call me about players every year. And I know how the conversations went, like his players were better than the players you have on staff, right. Like whatever. But the point is that, you go back to the 70s in Wisconsin and you look at the wellspring of coaching talent that started with Coach Buss, and then obviously with Coach Bennett and with Coach Ryan, and my dad getting a chance to kind of be a part of that story. I mean, my dad's manager at UW-Milwaukee was Bruce Weber. And he hired Bruce Weber as his manager because his best player was Dave Weber, right? I wear 44. I wear 44 because my favorite player growing up when I was just a little kid wore 44 for my dad at UW-Milwaukee. So that's how far we go back.
Well, Doug, good news and bad news. Good news, we're happy to have you. Bad news, we're not fans of Milwaukee. I mean,
no. I'm not. Hey, listen, I'm ready to continue that rivalry with Bart.
So fun. It is so fun.
So much fun.
Yeah.
So much fun.
So whenever I come on, we do this show, I wear something usually that is Wisconsin themed. And since Trevor doesn't know anything that happened before 1983 in his life, do you know why this sweatshirt that says Avon Old Farms is connected to Wisconsin?
Avon Old Farms.
Yeah.
I do not know that.
That is a high school in Connecticut. And Avon Old Farms, they have a very, very strong, deep baseball program history.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps their greatest player in high school and didn't have the longest career, but their best player they've ever had at Avon Old Farms was probably Juan Nieves.
Juan, really?
Yes.
It's amazing.
Tell me what it was like to catch that ball game, the only no-hitter in Brewers history.
Well, first of all, it was part of that 13-0 start for the Brewers.
Yeah.
Game 9. It was on tax day of all days, April 15th, I believe it was. And, it was cold. It was raining. Orioles had a heck of a lineup. They had Eddie Murray. They had Cal Ripken Jr. They had Terry Kennedy. They had a laundry list of really good players. And Juan had basically a fastball. That was all he had. And, every now and again he'd flip up a curveball just to keep him honest. But he had electric stuff that day. He was tough to catch. His ball was moving, darting and sinking. And I'd put down a 1 and the ball would cut. I'd put down a 1 the next pitch and it would sink. And it was all about the release point. And it was interesting that, we had a pretty comfortable lead throughout the game, and it was a 7-0 lead, I believe it was. I think Juan walked 4 in that game, maybe more. But, we get 2 outs, bottom of the 9th, Cal Ripken up, and me and my infinite wisdom, it was a 2-0 count, and I kind of decided we're not going to lose this no-hitter. The game's well in hand. We're not going to lose this no-hitter on a 2-0 pitch. So I kind of was setting up outside and walked Ripken on 4 pitches. And, the smart thing about that was not only, Cal Ripken, but you have Eddie Murray on deck. So the first pitch to Eddie Murray was a fastball. He hit it to Robin. And initially when he hit the baseball, I thought it was right at Robin, but it was slicing further and further away. It was a little bit windy. And the big question in everybody's mind was, did Robin have to dive, or could he have just ran it down? But Robin dove, caught the baseball, and the rest is history. So that was an amazing day. And I always say that I get credit for catching a no-hitter, but it was the easiest game I've ever called in my life, because it was basically fastballs. And it was one of those days where, he was just eating up bats and breaking bats and off the end. And there were some really great defensive plays. I remember Rob Deere made a great play coming in on a soft fly ball, and Molitor made a couple of good plays. Dale Swaim made a good play on a bad hop at shortstop. And then, of course, you have that catch by Robin. So you have to have a lot of luck in order to, throw a no-hitter, and he certainly did that day.
My son, by the way, would tell you that George Springer is the greatest Avon Old Farms player, but he's not a Brewer yet, so that doesn't count.
What was the secret sauce, Vern? You mentioned the Madison Muskies. I grew up in Jefferson. I had gear from the Muskies when I was a kid. Yeah. Why did those teams fail and you're successful?
I think it's the focus on fun, right? I think that you got to put yourself back in that time frame too. I think it's easy to forget how different minor league baseball is today than it was 20 years ago. And early 2000s is really a pretty pivotal point in the evolution kind of minor league baseball, right? So the teams that were here prior to us, they were more about baseball. That they wanted to win games. They thought that, Todd Van Poppel pitched for the Muskies, and that was one of their biggest crowds ever when he was kind of the hot first round draft pick that year. And they thought that was going to be the way that this thing was going to work from a business perspective. And we never thought that. We always thought it was going to be about fun and about doing weird stuff. One of my favorite stories from probably 9 years ago now, was Pete Alonso actually played for the Mallards after his freshman year at Florida. And he came up, got off to a great start. About 2-3 weeks into the season, we bring Jose Canseco up for an appearance. And Canseco's, late 40s probably at that time or something like that. And we're going to do a home run derby after the game. And so we select 3 Mallard players and Canseco. They're going to have a semifinal, and then they're going to have a final, kind of like a one-on-one type thing. And Alonso beat Canseco in the semifinal. But we wanted Canseco to go through to the final, of course, because nobody knows who Pete Alonso is when he's here as a freshman, playing for us. Nobody knows he's going to become the big league star that he is today. Everybody wants to see Canseco hit. So we end up disqualifying Alonso and pushing Canseco into the final. And he hits against another Mallard player who actually beats him again. And to this day, Pete Alonso is still pissed off at us about this thing. And I've heard him in interviews complain about how he got kicked out of this home run derby against Jose Canseco when he was here years ago. And that's the thing. If we keep it fun and kind of a little different feeling here, but also in that story, we're not forgetting about baseball, right? That we're proud to develop guys like Pete Alonso, and Nico Horner played for us here when he was a freshman at Stanford. And we're proud of that kind of developmental side of things. And we take that side really seriously, as well.
I know Alonso's going to end up on air after a Sunday night baseball game, and I just hope it's in the next 28 days and I get a hold of him, because that's going to be fantastic. Why was he DQ'd? What was the ruling? Corked bat?
Nothing. There was no reason. It was just you know, nobody was paying attention. We just decided to push Conseco through. There was no rationale. We just said, "Oh, looks like Conseco won." You know,
Sure. Okay.
there was no reasoning at all.
So we all love to talk about the great promotions that work, right? Is there one that just bombed that you're like, boy, that seemed like such a good idea when we came up with it and knocked it around, and then we got done and we're like, all right, so tomorrow, thank goodness we have another game.
I have two. One was like kind of a paid promotion, and one was an on-field promotion that I won't mention any names to protect the innocent, but
Sure.
The first one was my first year in Wisconsin Rapids in 2010. We hired Minikiss to come out and do a pregame concert. They did not show up for the pregame concert, and they were out at a bar drinking and came late, and we delayed the game 2 hours and still had them play the pregame concert, and we still played the game afterwards. I think it got out of there at like 2 a.m. It was the most miserable thing ever. Number two had to be, there was an on-field promotion, a Saturday Night Live skit that we were doing in Wisconsin Rapids, and they had the old Ditka skit that was getting run, and this group of people that were part of the partnership group that I worked with ended up doing the skit. And I like to see a reaction when somebody's going to do an on-field promotion, and I'm willing to try anything and willing to have our marketing team try anything and want them to get creative. So we'll let anything happen once, maybe even twice, just to see if we get elicited another new reaction. But there was just no response at all. There was not one clap in the entire facility. There's probably like 1,500 people, 2,000 people there at that night. And afterwards, the second skit they went out and did, they got booed off the field. And it was probably one of the most embarrassing things that I've seen. And I just that recap meeting was one of the most strange things I've been a part of. So.
By the way, do you like Trevor's jersey or do you like this one?
Oh, man.
Hold
I
on,
gotta go.
wide shot for that. Look at that.
That is a classic. Not a big plaid fan, but I do like Trevor's jersey a little bit more.
Me too.
I don't know. This is pretty. That's pretty amazing, right?
I still see them trickling around the ballpark. It makes a nice little backdrop.
That's awesome. What is that all about? Because you literally say it every single time. See you next time.
Yeah, Trevor, that comment, it actually has nothing to do with increased profitability or sales. It has everything to do with creating a culture, not simply in the store, but in our communities, creating a culture of compassion. And where it comes from, if you ever studied psychology, was that guy by the name of Maslow. And he talked about the hierarchy of needs. And you remember that pyramid that he has, the hierarchy of needs in the middle of the pyramid, there was this need to belong, that all of us have this need to belong. We have this instinctive piece of us as a human being that says, I want to go someplace where I'm always welcomed, where people are happy to see me, where I can always come back again. I often liken to this. My grandparents had a farm in northern Wisconsin near Phillips. And every time we'd go visit Grandma and Grandpa, when we were about to leave on Sunday afternoon, Grandma would always give you this big hug. And she'd say, you know what, Johnny, Grandma loves to see you. You know, you're always welcome at Grandma's. You know, if you ever need Grandma, you just pick up the phone and Grandma will be there for you. Well, as kids, when things weren't going well at home, instinctively, where did we go? Well, we turned to Grandma. And you know why? Because she mastered the return comment. She never let you leave without knowing that you were always welcome there. And we have multiple stories of guests whose lives were really impacted simply by that one line. It works.
And she gives you a piece of hard candy and $1, and then you'll always come back when that happens. So this company is not without warts. Okay, you probably knew this was coming. You guys do work with the Packers and the Brewers is nice, but you do work with the Vikings. So I'm going to need you to justify that right here.
Yeah, because we do operate in Minnesota, and sometimes
which is fine. Go ahead and operate in Minnesota. That's even fine too. I just don't know that we have to support the Vikings in this.
Although, obviously, Wisconsin guy, I'm somewhat biased, and I'm also somewhat religious. So I always remind people, what do you think the big G on the helmet stands for? And then the Vikings, they have horns on their helmet. Who does that remind you of?
Valid.
Yeah.
All right, J.A., we all watched it. Your last Sports Center. I introduced you just now as a broadcasting legend. And if you didn't get the memo, that's what you are. So Tell us about your last show, and then we're just going to cover the gamut. But how was last night? It's Saturday morning here.
It was way over the top. I had no idea. I had been for months trying to just say, since I announced it, or since you helped me announce it, I had tried desperately to go out quietly. Like I said, that kind of got shattered a little bit in early March, and when I was at Texas Relays. With the guys, I'm like, I just really would like to just do the show. The show's always been the thing. That should be the thing. And that's what we should do. And they humored me by going, yep, that's fine. We'd like to do a little something. You've been here 25 years, And I said, Levy will be here. That'll be great. And so it was way too much. It was over the top. It was remarkable to watch, though. Like, I'm like, wow, that was a long time. And there was a lot of things that we did, a lot of things I'd forgotten. I'm really indebted to Steve Levy to come and do the show, right? Levy literally had spent the last 12 days on the road going back between Edmonton and Miami, Fort Lauderdale with the Stanley Cup. And the fact he got back and just, kind of sucked it up and came in and did it like there was no hesitation. There wasn't like, are you sure we can't get, X to do it? So, and to do it with him, and you're sitting there and you go like, if my life was like this every night, you might change your mind. By the end of the show, I'm like, no, I'm still ready to be done. Because we get done, it was like 1:40 in the morning. I'm like, all right, here I am again. So that part, but it was great. It was fun. It was time. And like I said, a lot of stuff. We showed Twiggy the water skiing squirrel. And if you know or don't know, that's all. Long as he makes TV, then it's a good show. And I would just say this: if anybody's trying to leave quietly, pick a day when there's more crap going on. And then they can't do anything, right? Like it was just a slow sports day. So that gave them all the more time to just pull crap. Whereas if it just been, next time retire on Super Bowl Sunday. That way they're forced to just show you who won the Super Bowl and they would do less.
Hey, the Brewers had a great game for you to at least call. And that was a really fun
They had one
segment.
great swing, and sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah. And you rubbed it in 4 grand slams in the last week.
In a week.
For the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah, how great was that, though, that our girl, Nicole, Wausau's finest, shows up. First off, like Kenny Mayne, here's your finest meats and cheeses in a clubhouse feast. And then sits there. And then the fact that, her team just got pounded is fantastic. What details can you spill, and what ones are you holding back, and what percentage are we still working out?
We're probably working on about 80% of it.
Okay.
What I can't spill, because the NFL has not decided on, is where the stage will be. So they're working through that right now in terms of what they need to do. And obviously how they use the Resch Expo, which is the building behind the parking lot, which is how they manage that. So there's some hopefully by end of July, we'll have more knowledge on that.
How much do they have a say, and how much do you go, wait, no, we're here. We know what it's like to put 81,000 in. And that may sound like a great idea in New York, but in Green Bay, actually, no.
Well, I don't think they've forgiven me yet, but they can't put the stage on the field because I want to keep my job. The stage, as you know, is massive. And if we put any of the current stages they've done in the past, it would go from stands to it would cover the whole lower bowl, and the weight and what that would do to the field, it's not okay. So they have to put the stage outside. But I don't think Peter O'Reilly is still mad at me. He mentioned like 3 or 4 times.
Interesting.
So this is more than just Billy Joel and his piano. We need more space.
Oh, it's about 3 times the size or twice. Yeah. Because they put an overhang over it too. You've seen it. Like there's always, because the inner circle has to go underneath. So take Billy Joel, 3 times the size, and now put a roof over it. It's a hanger. So it's like a hanger, air hanger.
It looked like a hanger in Detroit. Ridiculous. And
it's going to be bigger than Detroit, I hope. I'm pushing.
Jeez. Wow. There's not many places that thing can go. Let's be honest. Like, especially if they're going to use the Resch Expo, there's kind of an intersection that this is going to be best. So, but that's one of the questions that comes up all the time, Gabrielle, is how are we going to get around in the month leading up to the draft? Because they have to build that thing, right? And my kids, or my youngest, I should say, I just had one graduate, go to St. Mark, right down the road from, right. So how do we help explain to the greater Green Bay public that this isn't going to shut down the whole city?
Well, we're working with public safety on that message and city and counties. And so that you can get there through Oneida Street. So when they build the stage, the campus starts small and gradually grows. So probably the week of school, and I'm just guessing, you'll just have to go do a detour, and that's maybe going up Ashland and cutting across or something like that. So it's one thing that it's not like a downtown. I mean, it's 1 to 2 streets and maybe 2 to 3 blocks. So it's not like we're shutting down Detroit.
Yeah, true.
Who are we kidding? Everybody's going to be so excited it's here that whatever inconvenience is going to feel minor. I mean, that's just my belief as somebody there. I think we should really Green Bay this thing up, though. Take St. Mark's. That could be your green room, right? I've told you, my buddy across the street, Byron.
No, we're going to tailgate there. Are you kidding me?
We could do that. Again, his mom, B, has this, she's got the refrigerator magnets of all the teams she's ready to put in order. So you have the draft. Or I think we should, instead of glitzing it, we should Green Bay it. And that would be, I noticed when they did the handoff, there was a bike in front. And I'm like, see, now you're getting towards my people.
Yes, we're creating bikes for every team. So, and having each team bring a bike kit in. We're trying to figure it out with the teams. We're not sure if they're gonna want to do that, but regardless, we're gonna have a bike with every single team on it. And Mark wants them we'll ship it to each team for charity. So that's coming out soon.
Hand out an old fashioned along with the hat. There's a logo on the glass with I just feel like we really need this to be, take
a
away
polka band. We need a polka band on a flatbed, don't you think?
I don't know if Alvin Stachinsky is still working, but yeah, if I can get apple peaches, pumpkin pie, or any of those things roll off the barrel, yes, see, now we're doing better.
They're cooking with fire. I love it.
Yeah.
Not a single one of you dudes have straight fingers. They're always crooked. And I feel like that's his fault, right? Am I seeing a pinky that won't go all the way open, Derek? Is that true?
So yes, and yes. Where am I at?
Right there.
So those two just don't go together. So he's responsible for those two. I got another. My wedding ring is tattooed because that was broke. That was 99. Yeah, it's pretty bad. And I think thumbs. He got a couple of my thumbs. It's hard to show the thumbs, but you can see right there. Yeah.
Do you send him medical bills every once in a while or no?
Let's not talk about anything medical or PPP or anything about Brett. Let's not. Let's just leave all that.
Got
it.
That's fantastic.
Oh man, he's a much better quarterback than he is a businessman.
There you go.
Got
it. You could hear the ball coming before it got to you. You could hear it whistling, which is amazing, right? And you knew on a third down, you're just humming. You could just hear it whistling coming. And it's like, oh yeah. And what I'll say most importantly about that is, unlike a lot of other quarterbacks, Brett did it for purpose. It was a purpose behind it. He didn't just throw the ball just to be throwing it hard. And I'm not going to mention any names that are just asshole throw the ball hard.
Mm-hmm.
His deep ball was catchable, right? His over the middle balls, not always accurate, but he had he had touch. And hell, I think about our Venus route that he and I created. I mean, Mike got mad at. I mean, there's nobody better that could throw the back shoulder. He and I created the back shoulder catch together. You know that, right?
I did not. I just thought he underthrew people.
No. No. So this would be I think it was year 3. Might have been year 2. I'm not a burner. And what me and Brett realized was, and Michael Irvin will talk about it all the time, Mike never wanted separation. He wanted to body, and then separate at the last minute, right? Because he wasn't a burner either. So whether it was me, Chris Carter, Mike Irvin, those guys, for us, I want contact. I need to know where the defender is, and that way, at the very last minute, I can break away and catch the ball. And so for me running a go route, it didn't, why in the hell would you send me down 60 yards down? And if it's Dion or anybody else, they're going to be right there with me, right? Now I can go up and get the ball over top or whatever, but what we started was this 3-step drop. Derek, I'm going to pull you up. And that's what he would say. D, I'm going to pull you up. And so I'm running my route. I got my man right here next to me, side by side. All I had to do was look back, and he pulls me up. That's Mike. Come here. Like, what's up? Who told you to do that? I'm like, didn't nobody tell me nothing, Coach. Brett just threw the ball. Brett, come here. And he gets both of us. You guys are drawing up that shit in the dirt again. What are you doing? And so did it a couple more times and made it successful. By the time I know in the game that T.O. caught the ball, we did one. It was a successful Venus. And if you see it on film, it was cold-blooded because I was gonna turn backwards, but I slipped and my feet got under me. And so I ended up going forward with my feet backwards, and I caught the ball literally as it was coming back over my head. And I get up, and sure enough, Mike's excited because we convert the first down. But there's that shit, you're drawing that shit up again. He ended up calling the name Venus by the time I got to Seattle. So now by the time I get traded to Seattle, it's in the book. So like, yeah,
now
it's
it's a
Venus.
play.
I'm like, what's Venus? I'm like, oh, that's the route that you shitted on for 2 years. Yeah.
You should have walked up to
There
him
you
and been like, did you draw that shit up in the dirt or what? Where'd you get that?
The mindset of the Packer team. This is why I preach this so much. Talent doesn't win the game, man. I'm telling you, your heart and your mind is what wins, and over anything. And we had that in Green Bay in the Super Bowl. We did not have that in Buffalo.
Yeah, I believe that completely. And being around Don and all the Hall of Famers, I think that year in '96, everybody believed that we could do it. And when we finally won that game, '97 was, we're going to do it again. And then unfortunately, when we got to that game, we got outplayed. It was just, Denver came to it and said, no, we know how to beat you guys. But with all that being said, we're not talking about losing. For people that are watching this and don't know a lot about Don, this is something that you really need to read. Don gave me this book many years ago when he wrote this. And I'm telling you, this is one of the best books I ever read. And I think if Don wants to share a little bit about it, it's so impressive that, like I've told you before, Don's an inspirational guy, but some of the stuff that's in his book that people don't know about, everybody knows about the Leon Lett thing with Don. You know, Don is 1,000 times more than just this one play. And everybody gets the one play shakedown of what they did in their career. I think what Don has done off the field is what he does preaching God to people. I mean, it's so amazing. And I just told Don the other day, it's like, if it wasn't for Don and Reggie and Kadri Ishmael, I don't think I'd be where I am today. Those guys brought me to light, but this book is something that people need to read.
Ndamukong Suh. You just go ahead and talk. What happened with the stomp? Why did that happen? What's the behind the scenes with getting stomped by Ndamukong Suh?
You ever seen the play?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
What happened on the play? Before the fight, before the whistle was blown, do you guys know what happened on the play?
No, but please tell us.
He got his ass whooped. And I pancaked him. And you know, it's one of those things like, did you guys just see this report about Jim Schwartz? You know, the between, what was it, the joint practices that the Browns were at?
Yep.
I just saw this thing. It was like, you know, they told him that the Browns defense to like calm down. And, you know, so he comes from the Jeff Fisher tree. All right. You know, and I'm sure Jeff was a great guy. Never got to play for him or anything like that. But he taught his guys to play like scumbags. You know, they would take cheap shots that, you know, we weren't going to win. You were going out of there unharmed. Like that was their motto. You know what I mean? Like every time I played a squad from any coach that came out of that tree, like that's how they played. And don't get me wrong, Jim is a hell of a defensive coach. That he gets those defenses and they play hard, but they are very nasty because that's how he coaches them to be. He does not, he's not one of those guys. He's like, I'm going to take off the restraints. I mean, I got respect for that, because like I said, I played, you got to have some kind of attitude or nastiness about you if you want to be successful out there playing. Like you can be a nice guy, but he gets in there and they lock the cage. Like, you got to go hunt. You know what I mean? It's not one of those things like, oh, hey, like we're just kind of playing around, having patty. No, like brotherly love is not part of that. And, parts of the time you try and do that, but all the best times or best time I was playing, like that's why I was playing so good against the Lions because I hated them.
How long does it take to ingrain some of those things so they become natural? Because we've seen it before. Yeah, we worked on it all summer. Next time you got a guy that's 6'7", 280 chasing down with bad intentions and all those things out the window. How long does it take for that stuff to become part of your DNA and your nature?
Yeah, I think that's always individualized to the guy, but I say a couple years, I really do. That's why one of the things I always say is, when young quarterbacks come into the league, it's you're asking me to develop and take the bad habits out of my game that I've built for a decade, more than likely, but also I have to play and win. And naturally I'm going to revert back to habits that might be bad. And so I think it takes a couple years to really break guys of that, unless it was a really a big part of their game to begin with, like CJ Stroud, who came out last year. He didn't really have any real mechanical flaws. And so that's kind of one of the reasons why you saw him start so fast. So I think it takes a couple years of legitimate work, when it comes to drills, and then it comes to individual, and then you're applying it to like a 7-on-7 environment, and then you're applying it to real life and games and simulated practices. And so you're really trying to break a lot of bad habits and then start to build really good ones that can be constantly relied on, no matter the situation, and the chaos around doesn't break that. And I think that's kind of evident with the patience that they showed with Jordan.
You played at Lambeau, Chase, when you were with the Lions and obviously the Bears. What is it about the Packers at Lambeau Field that gives them that edge, and knowing full well that the Lions have kind of spoiled that the last few seasons?
Yeah, they really have. I'll tell you what, Lambeau Field to me is one of the greatest places on earth. Like, it's hard to go into that. And I think it's the history, to answer your question. But you go into that place and you just look up and you look around and you think of all the greats who have played there, and you go through that locker room, and you get chills, man. Like, very rarely do I go into, I played in all 32 stadiums. I think I played in like 40 stadiums actually, because I played in some stadiums like multiple times. Like Minnesota Stadium, I played in 3 separate times because it was the Metrodome, it was Minnesota, it's the New Dome. It's easily one of my favorite places to go, and it's always a chill in the air, even in September. Man, we started the season there. I think it was 2018, the Khalil Mack game, or his first game back. Strip sack, fumble. Aaron Rodgers goes out. I'm like, oh, we're winning this thing. Not so fast. Aaron Rodgers comes back, and then the crowd gets into it, and Mitch Trubisky can't hear on certain plays. It's just such a unique home field advantage. But also, like I like to say, Packers fans are like Nebraska fans, and why do I say that? Nebraska Cornhusker fans are like the nicest human beings on planet Earth, and they are the smartest fans. They know when to be loud. They know not to, when. That's the Packers, and this "Go Pack, go" gets so freaking annoying when you're on the visitor bench. You just can't help but be like, "Shut up!" and they just keep doing it. They keep doing it, man.
I have lived here my whole career. I've been married 30 years, in agency 30 years, and it just really is important that as I've interacted with people, first as a business person, it's important to work in your community and then be involved with other women and men and people in community organizations. So that's just a really important part. So I'll ask, how are you involved in your community? And when you're not working, what do you enjoy doing? Or how do you support your family and your community? And just get to know people, because that's my core of who I am, is I like to get to know people before I, present a proposal or go over their insurance. So I know that I appreciate people getting to know me, and I would like to do the same. It's really just all about connecting with people and adding value and helping them understand and managing risk. And I really enjoy working with the people that I do. I just feel like American Family resonates with who I am. The fact that they are so strong in giving back to the community. The Sheboygan County Food Bank does the annual Holiday Lights Walk, which is always the Saturday before Thanksgiving. And what it is, it's an opportunity for the community to walk through Evergreen Park, which features the holiday lights. A lot of parks in Wisconsin, the Rotary puts on this holiday light show, and our agency sponsors all of the refreshments for the 2,000 to 3,000 walkers and runners. So it's families and individuals that want to walk or run through the park. And then after they complete that, then they come into the warming center at Quarry View and they enjoy a hot chocolate and some cookies, and we have a little spin wheel for prizes and all kinds of great things. And it's just really a super time for a lot of people. It's just neat to be there, and especially to be there with my team from the office. I do believe that it is really more than a quote because of the fact that we really do care about our customers. You know, I like to call people on their birthday just so that gives me an opportunity to look at their account and reach out to them. I'm not presenting any product or trying to get into any other business conversation. I just really want to reach out. It's more than a quote because when I physically meet with people, I like meeting with people eye to eye. You know, there's that human connection. I always say it's a we, not a me, you know, agency. And we like to convey to our customers that we're, you know, nobody likes to pay their insurance, but we want to let you know that, you know, we give back to the community and we're physically there and financially to support them.
John and I talked to Murph December 26th. It was like shortly after he got hired. Not a thing had happened yet with the season. And he had already predicted, I just posted a video about it the other day. He already predicted that this team was going to be made up of people we'd never heard of and that we were going to constantly need to stir the soup. You just said the word soup. I'm wondering if you can make that the postseason moniker for the Brewers. Stir the soup. Hashtag stir the soup. Yeah.
Sort of, but when you stir the soup in the playoffs, my experience, I've done playoff baseball now for, this will be my 17th year. When you push the envelope against playoff teams who are playing hard, who are aggressive, they charge ground balls to the outfield, they make throws typically, you're going to run yourself into a lot of outs. You're going to do things that are going to appear to be stupid. And you're going to sit at home and say, why are they doing this? And I would say, okay, look at the contact play, for example. Everybody, it drives people crazy, the contact play. Runner at third, less than 2 outs, ground ball to an infielder. Oh my gosh, there's fireworks going on. What is that?
That's something on your iPad. You had a thumbs up there too for a second. It's amazing. There we go.
That's perfect.
How great
it's
is
the playoffs.
that?
That's
Celebrating
amazing.
the playoffs.
You could never be Italian and do this podcast because it's a lot of hands. Okay. So anyway, like when you get into, I'll keep my hands down. Don't tell me no lies. Keep your hands to yourself. So I think in the playoffs, if you start doing things like that, yes, you want to push the envelope, but you're also going to run yourself out of innings. And when you're dealing with teams that have dudes, teams that have $300 million players, like the Phillies, like the Dodgers, in their case, $700 million players. Yeah. It's hard to get by with that. So I do think the game is going to have to change for them a little bit. I'm not saying they need to be more conservative, but they're going to have to hit some homers. Home runs win in the playoffs, proven fact. You cannot afford to test third time through against a reliever that may be wobbling. And that is like directed right at Freddie Peralta, let's say, your ace. You want to ride or die with your ace, right? That can't happen in the playoffs. If he's wobbly in the first 3-4 innings, he really can't go third time through. You just can't do it because the games are blown up in the middle of those middle inning scenarios. And so it will be a change. I do think the game totally changes in the playoffs. What the Brewers do really well and where I think they will thrive in the playoffs is this notion of the humble approach, as Alex Cora used to call it. And the humble approach has been something they've done all year. It's totally normal for them. So when it calls for hitting a ball to the right side to advance a runner, putting a ball in play with 2 strikes. You can't have strikeouts with a runner at third and less than 2 outs. Those are the things that do play well in the playoffs, because you put the ball in play, you keep pressure on, and the Brewers do that really well. So I do think there are some pieces of their game that's going to play really well. Pat Murphy is not going to be landlocked like the Phillies were with, let's say, Craig Kimbrell last year, where he's been one of the great closers, and he's going to get to close Game 3 with us up 2-0 in Arizona. That didn't work. And the Diamondbacks, there's the thumb again. And the Diamondbacks won that game in a walk-off, and then never, relinquished. And they were back in the series, and they ended up going to the World Series. So the Brewers don't have that, other than Devin Williams, and you want him in the 9th. But they're not landlocked with players that we have to hit in a certain spot, pitch in a certain spot. It's kind of like, however the game goes, we are going to get through this inning, get through the middle of these innings, get through the starter, the opposition starter, and then get to the finish line of the game. Which is a good thing. That's the way every team should function.
So you mentioned, part of the job, a big part of it is how do you impart your wisdom from 15 years in the bigs on these people? But let's go the other way. Like, what did you learn on the job this first year as an associate manager?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both of just learning as far as, when to push, when to pull, how to talk to guys in certain situations, or when, and sometimes when to hold back from that. And also I think, one of the biggest things is too, for me, was just kind of seeing how staff works and seeing how, who does what, and how we can kind of work more efficiently and things like that. So, again, that's all under the realms of Murph, and he's done a great job, obviously, so far with all that. So I've just been a fly on the wall, just trying to see exactly, how he does things and how we kind of work together.
So what is it that drew you to this position?
I don't know about drawing me to position, but I think I just like baseball, and obviously being in Milwaukee, and obviously going through my front office experience the last 2 years, and kind of growing there, and then I have an opportunity to come to the dugout, and it's all worked out. Again, I don't care who you are, what kind of job you have, but you want to be the best at your job. So that's what I try to do.
Ricky, months ago, maybe even a year ago now, we talked to Owen Miller, and he told us how incredible it was to meet Ricky Weeks when all of a sudden he's obviously a Mequon kid, or Fredonia. This,
right.
So maybe I was just going to ask you, and then we'll just let Owen see it. What was it like meeting Owen Miller?
No, it's cool. But to be really honest with you, I think the last person I think I've seen who was from the area to make it to the big leagues was, I want to say it was I'm drawing a blank now, the right-hand pitcher, Zimmerman, I want to say.
Oh yeah.
So for me to understand somebody who's from here, obviously with the organization, and being from the area, really feels good to have somebody who does remember you, but also good player in Owen Miller. So I know he's got a great career ahead of him, and we'll be excited to see him.
So if we're talking about meeting people, then I'm going to ask, did you ever get to meet Hank Aaron when you were on the team?
Did I? Of course.
What was Hank like? What was that?
No, it was great. My childhood hero was Ricky Henderson, but I think there's some grandfathers to those players like Ricky Henderson. So, and obviously one of those big ones was, and my top of the list, right beside Willie Mays, is Hank Aaron. And I had a chance to really meet him and kind of understand what he was about, obviously where he came from, and hearing stories about him, but it was good to kind of hear from him. I was able to get a signed jersey for him, so that was one of the highlights of my career. But other than that, though, he's just a delightful person to be around, and kind of hear him kind of his wisdom come out in baseball as well.
The appreciation we should have for the 5 months of baseball they gave us, 6 months, is amazing. And I want to know where you are on that. Like, are you able to? Do you count victories to get yourself to sleep at night? Because you got 93 of them.
Yeah, I mean, where I am with this whole thing is that it was a really fun year of baseball, right? And like you said, nobody expected any of this from this Brewers team. If you ask the prognosticators, depending on the publication, they were looking at 75 to 80 wins. And if you finished at 500 or above 500, you'd consider that a win in terms of a season. I think the internal metrics that the Brewers had and their internal systems had the Brewers performing better than what a Fangraphs or a Baseball Reference would have guessed for a win total. But everybody was high on the Cubs. Everybody was high on the Cardinals. And look where they finished. You know, the Pirates were a scary team at one point, and they had a 10-game losing streak, and they were in last place with the Reds. Now the Reds are, you know, they thought they were going to have a great year, and they didn't have a great year. And here come the mighty Brewers, who everybody underestimates every single year, and for 6 of the last 7 years in the playoffs. Does that translate to a lot of wins in the postseason? It hasn't. And it's translated to 2 wins in the postseason since 2018. But at the same time, you're there. And if you're a fan base, I know you want to win series, and I know you want to get to championships, and you want to get to a World Series for the first time since 2008, since 1982. But at the same time, you're giving yourself a shot. You're giving yourself a non-rebuilding year. You're not in the wallows with the Washington Nationals. You're not down there with the Miami Marlins, who have a fluke winning season every now and again. You don't have to rebuild every 5 years. It's a consistent team. And I think this team's going to be really consistent for a long time. The way that they're operating with the young guys that they have with the position player groups, I think their bullpen still is in really good shape. You got to figure out your starting rotation, but everybody does at some point. I still think that this is a very exciting franchise to follow and get your fandom behind.
It is now. When I was growing up in the 90s, not so much. I just said to my son, I was like, hey, you ever heard of Jeremy Burnitz? Yeah, I didn't think you did, because nobody had in that time, even though he was phenomenal.
Sure.
Is
Why
that
don't
why
you
it
bring
hurt?
up a former Mets #1 draft pick? Awesome.
Holy
You're killing me,
shit,
dog.
really?
Why
Yeah.
don't you stick with a John Jaha, man? At least he was in that home run derby in '99 at Fenway.
Golly, you are just Levering. This
Of
is what I
all-
bring up all the time. The sense of history here is just literally. He picked a guy who was the #1 draft pick of the Mets. Awesome.
Like, it's an anonymous job that is best left anonymous.
Yes.
Like ideally, if people said, who was that guy that in the Super Bowl, like 61, like
Yeah.
it seems like that would be the did you ever crave for some notoriety in this thing?
No, I got it in Green Bay. That's what's nice
Uh-huh.
about Green Bay. And I think the professional game, college game, I did screw up one time in college. My whole career, I screwed up, threw it over the guy's head against the Longhorns my sophomore year at the Razorback Stadium. I still remember, left hash about right around the 22-yard line. It was a great snap, perfect spiral, threw it over the punter's head, couldn't jump and get it. And it was, it was pretty to look at, but you don't want that notoriety, and a lot of players don't. But you want. In growing up in the media and everybody else, in Green Bay, you're fortunate that you go to the grocery store and people know who you are, and you get a lot of respect for that. You get the notoriety comes from doing your job, and I think that's the most special thing is you go out there and perform, you're going to get noticed, and it's not getting noticed for the bad things. You're getting noticed for the good things. And that happens. Still in this game, everybody still wants those good stories to come out. They want to see how, this guy caught a break or this person, did this, that, or the other. And I think that I was always able to get exactly what I wanted in Green Bay. And throughout my NFL career, I can't imagine having the notoriety that some of the other players have, because I can still go to the grocery store. I can still do certain things the other guys couldn't do. And that was also fun that I could go also sneak off to the bar. I can go to Fish Fry Friday up there in Wisconsin. So that was a lot of fun too.
I always tell people when that Packers get recognized, like in the grocery store, most other places, they're fanboys. In Wisconsin, they want to make sure you're eating right. Like, it's just a whole different kind of fan when they come through there. But as great as all the jokes were, not all of them got in. Tell people what the standards and practices people do for a living.
All right. So standards and practices, I'll put it in the sports world. They are what I like to refer to as a comedy goalie. So their job is to kick away anything remotely funny on the edge. So they're essentially the kryptonite of comedy writers, and they're constantly going, well, you probably shouldn't say that. That's too far. That's a little too much. That's too dark. This is so. It became a game of keep away. And I would say probably about season 4, we as writers began to sort of backdoor them. So what we would do is we had a couple of tactics. If you had a joke that was right on the edge, we would then write 5 more jokes that were so far over the edge that you sort of hoped that they would go, well, I mean, we killed these 5. Let's let this one go. Like it sort of tilted the scales of what they considered over the line. That worked for a little while. And then we sort of went nuclear, and it became a matter of like, don't put that in the script, and I will magically improvise it the day of taping. This is the God's honest truth. What most people don't know is that there were, I think, if I am remembering correctly, 9 executives on the show between Endemol, the executive producers, and ABC that had veto power over any joke. And they didn't, this wasn't like we performed it for them and they all got to see who laughed and what the balance of it was. They were either reading it by themselves on a screen, or they were listening to an editor read it on a temp track. So you're essentially writing a joke that has to be so good that an editor can deliver it and convince 9 executives. Because if just one of those executives writes ? Can we beat this? It's out, and there's no appeals process. So we would hold it out, and I would go, you know what? I'm gonna improvise that the day of, and if everybody laughs, the people watching the cut will go, oh, that's a good joke. Everybody laughed. I'll let it go. And there were still, I mean, John, I don't know. I've always thought this. My favorite joke on Wipeout that did not make it into a show ever was, so we had a phrase, the scorpion. If you wiped out so hard that your back bowed and your feet, the bottoms of your feet touched the back of your head, we called that a scorpion. And I want to say it was like season 6. It was towards the end. They were always very cagey about any reference or allusion to anyone being hurt or injured. So this poor woman, Scorpion, so brutally, like so remarkably bad. And, you know, feet touch the back of the head and then flops back down. And she laid there motionless for a second and then popped up and started running. And in that moment where she was laying prone, not moving, I went, oh my God, do we need to get new jobs now? And then she popped up and started running. I go, nope, we're okay. And they were like, no, like literally stop now. And I go, I said no. And they were like, we know what you're doing. That's out. Yeah.
There were some of them. I always enjoyed too when people would ask you if anybody was ever seriously hurt, and you'd be like, well, let's define seriously before we go into that. Yeah, the censors were not everybody's friend. And I always appreciated how hard that part of your job was, because if I said something funny accidentally, it was fine. But like to have to go sell a joke that you just didn't believe in has got to be that was tough. And then when it bombed, they're like, that guy's not funny at all. And you're like, you took all of that. And I was just sitting there going, hey, here's Frank Mead, who's a teacher that has 17 rabbits.
All right, 2 for me, and then the lightning round. So here's my first one. Jeff, what hunting or deer hunting specifically superstitions do you have? You got to have some.
It's a Braunschweiger sandwich for lunch and anise hard candy in my pocket in case I get a dry throat to keep me from coughing and scaring deer away.
That's awesome. I refuse to carry my knife with me when I'm in the woods, because that is just expecting that I'm going to shoot or kill something. So I leave it back at camp. And if I get one, then I will go back and get the knife and do the thing. It's never on me. All right, last one. I don't know if you can tell me or not. It's kind of like UFOs. Is Bigfoot real?
I'm a skeptic. As a scientist, I'm afraid I'm a skeptic.
Oh.
So you're saying there's a chance. I got it. All right, Jay.
Yeah. So wait, if you were going to look for Bigfoot, would you carry your knife, Trevor, or would you, like, how would that work?
Do I have a gun?
I don't know. Good
yeah,
Lord.
I think so.
This is what I work with, Jeff.
Yeah.
This is what I work with.
That's I always
People
thought.
go, wow, 26 shows. Why don't you do it every week? That right there is why we don't do this every week.
Wow.
That simple. Okay. So I am at my heart a track and field guy, but I really like field over track. Do you prefer field or stream?
That's a tough one because I go back and forth. I'm going to get later in life. I'm going to be stream because I really enjoy fly fishing as much as I do hunting, and I'll be able to do that maybe a little bit longer. But I'm in both of them. And in track, I was a long jumper and a relay specialist, so I like them both there too.
All right,
Good enough. Brian, we asked John Kuhn to give us a story from behind the scenes of the Super Bowl, and he said that him and Sitton ended up in a bar somewhere in the stadium with an open tap of Coors Light and a bottle of Patron. What do you got? How do you beat that? What's something behind the scenes from the Super Bowl that we wouldn't know that you can actually share?
Well, yeah, no, it makes sense that he wouldn't forget that TJ and I were right next to him because I had a bottle of Jack Daniels right next to him at the same bar around the side of it. It was funny because, we're waiting for the bus to leave and guys are in the locker room doing media. So obviously it's going to take a long time. And I remember we all pulled up to that bar, that you walk through to get to the locker room. And the bartender's he's like, well, guys, I'm off shift. So you guys just won the Super Bowl. So, hey, take what you need. He goes, I'm off duty. So we pulled the bottle of Jack Daniels out, poured ourselves some drinks, and John and Sitton and TJ, we were just all there hanging out, waiting until we got told that the buses were leaving. And that was, we sat at that bar for probably 45 minutes, no food in our stomach, but just drinking cocktails, talking about the game. And that's what it was.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us.
Pump up the savings with Festival Foods Gas Rewards. How does it work? Simple. Grab your card in store, register online, get points for every grocery run, then roll up to Quick Trip and watch the prices roll back. Festival Foods Gas Rewards. Pump up the savings with Festival Foods Gas Rewards. How does it work? Simple. Grab your card in store, register online, get points for every grocery run, then roll up to Quick Trip and watch the prices roll back. Festival Foods Gas Rewards.
Time for another top 5 list on the Inside Wisconsin Show, as always presented by our friends at University of Wisconsin-Platteville. Their renowned engineering and STEM programs offer a cutting-edge environment with over 60 majors to choose from. With exciting clubs and organizations, there's always fun happening on campus. Discover why UW-Platteville is a smart investment. Apply now, uwplatt.edu. Best of episode. I put together a list of my favorite top 5s from this year, and I have 4.
So I was going to say, so is this another one where you're going to ask me how long a crappie has to be before you can keep it or throw it back? Or, how many fish I can catch before the DNR comes out and asks for my license? Or is this going to be like a regular thing?
Why don't we just use that as my 5th favorite top 5 of 2024? Number 3 left. In order to be considered antlerless, a deer must have 0 antlers or antlers under this many inches. Is it under 2 inches, under 3 inches, or under 4 inches?
Seriously? 2 inches difference is going to make it is the thing here?
Mm-hmm. You got to get your
I just drag this through and somebody eyeballs it. This is like a ref at the first down. I don't know. I feel like we're going to have to go under the hood. That might be 2 inches too high. What are we kidding? It's the same thing. So I'll go
Jeff?
2. I'll go 2.
It is under, Jeff?
It's under 3.
All right, here's the last question. If you were born on January 1st of this date up until today, meaning if you were born after January 1st in this year, you're required to have
I know how a calendar works. Thanks.
Okay. Hunter's safety is required, and it started in this year, meaning if you were born, all right, so is it 1963, 1973, or 1983?
Wow. So this is like horse racing. Everybody has the same birthday, as long as it's on January 1st. By the way, is Hunter safety at 8 years old? Is that what I heard? Is that where it goes? 8 years old?
There is actually, as in most states now, there's no age requirement. It is up to the parent. And so it used to be 12, and they did away with the age minimum. Oh, again, about the same time they allowed fluorescent pink.
See, and I thought I'd heard in one Wisconsin legislative session, you had to be in your car seat till you're 8, and then you could start gun safety at 8. And here, out of your car seat, and here's a rifle. I don't even know what was ninth gun safety was when? 19. What'd you say? What are the
so it's either 63, 73, or 83. Meaning, if you were born before January 1st of this year. Yeah.
So 63, I don't think so. 63, we didn't even need seat belts, and we thought cigarettes were good for you. So I'm going to get rid of 63.
Okay.
73, same thing. I think you just could put a kid in the back dashboard of a Corvair and drive all over. So I'll go 83. When I graduated high school, like me, everybody got good sense in 83.
Sure. Jeff?
73.
All right. Well, close enough. At least I would have been an 8-year-old. See, I would have been
John,
8. That's perfect.
You could technically walk into Wisconsin today and buy a license, and you would get it. Just read the regulations first, I think.
Because I am literally, because I'm old, grandfathered in.
The quizzing of the Wisconsin hunting regulations book of John Anderson with our guy Jeff Pritzel. From
Next,
Wisconsin
here's Wisconsin's driver's ed manual. Let's see what John remembers out of that. Like, what the hell?
I'm allowed to get quizzed and bomb, but that was the only one you've ever bombed on. It wasn't too bad either. I feel like you got 3 out of 5.
Like, I use stuff that's readily available information, and I'm not measuring deer antlers that are between 2, 3, or 4 inches. Like, come on.
That was great.
My guess is most of the stuff that when I put it together, even if you're there and people are going to go at the Christmas party and go, hey, did you know this? I don't know of anybody that's going to be their Christmas party or office party and go, did you know that if a deer's antler is 2 inches, you can't shoot it, but if it's 3 or 4, nobody's doing that.
And if there was a Christmas party here, you might think that some people know it. All right, number 4.
Is there an Inside Wisconsin Christmas party, by the way? Is there an office party? Because if it is, I have missed it. Or did you and Amanda just have a drink the other night and go, okay, here you go? And she's like,
cheers to everybody. Yep.
Put on your Inside Wisconsin shirt. I guess this is the Christmas party.
Number 4.
Exchanged ornaments. What's number 4?
The top 5 cocktails.
But these are the top 5 rejected carbless flavors. Okay.
Interesting. Shoot.
Yeah. Number 5, cheddar.
What?
Yeah, cheddar carbless seems like it would be terrible. So they just said, no, we're not going to make a cheddar version of carbless. That'll be
not
bad.
even aged cheddar carbless?
Nope. No.
Cheddar
Number
out.
4 rejected carbless flavor was smelt. They're like, I don't think we can sell that. Probably not going to do that.
That makes prom go south, if I remember some stories right.
Yeah. Number 3 is yellow snow. We thought there would be there'd be some demand when it came out, and carbless is like, we're not going to go any farther. I know it's
no
winter,
yellow
we got
snow.
A chance.
That's a lot.
You would care to guess what number 2 is?
Milk.
No, number 2 is venison. Much like some other, it's like, I don't know that people are going to go for a venison, because it would be a great pairing. But
it would.
Again, after some early taste test, venison carbless, terrible.
Ran up the flagpole, at least. That's worth it. And what's number 1?
The number 1 rejected carbless flavor is Fox River. Not really sure what that was going to be like. Made from the natural waters, because it works from the big water of the Chippewa River for a Leinenkugel. But so they tried Fox River, and that also nothing. So
I'm really they have some smart R&D people there over at Carbless, because that's really that's sound advice. We reviewed our favorite cocktails, mostly outside of the old fashioned, but Wisconsin known for having a cocktail or 2 or a Miller Lite or 10. Our top 5 favorite cocktails. What was that one? You shook the vermouth or the whatever it was right next to it.
Gimlet. You take the Rose's lime juice and you set it next to
that's what it was.
Vodka, and you take the cap off, and then you let it sit for a second. Then you just put the cap back on.
Yeah,
that's it. Very dry.
Things will get
blow some dust off it.
Number 3, the top 5 jokes that the Packers didn't use of the all-knowing John Anderson.
The mental gymnastics of Anderson, the all-knowing. I have no idea what's in these envelopes. I'm just going to just come to me. Jordan Love. Jordan Love. Why do so many people hate on LeBron James? Ritz NORAD Lombardi. Ritz NORAD Lombardi. Name a cracker, a tracker, and a packer.
Yeah, that was terrible. And then if you go look at their schedule was right, they used this much of it, which I knew. That's fine, right? Like I don't know how many field goals Rob Domofsky tried to kick before, they used just this much. But obviously, it was comedy gold that they chose not to use, and that's fine. It's they're going to go to the playoffs, so apparently, I knew what the hell they were talking about.
It was comedy gold. I'll give you that. Number 2, the top 5 items on a Quick Trip hot bar. Debatable topic. I already know it. And my buddy Brett is going to hear this and be like, yep, this makes sense because I've been to a Quick Trip with you about 100 times. All right, number 5. They have a spicy chicken sandwich that is unbelievable. And I don't need 2. I just need 1. I don't know why every time I buy 2, but I just need 1. But
Was
they're
there
really
a
good.
pickle on it? Was it have some sort of a nice aioli on it? What
There's
do
a
we have?
condiment bar next to it that
Okay.
you can put on whatever you want. It just comes with a spicy chicken and a bun, but it's super good. And it's not
Very
too
good.
spicy. I don't
Very
need to sweat through my clothes. Number
They
4,
got Popeyes on the run. What's next?
mushroom and Swiss cheeseburger. So if you're at a restaurant and they have a cheeseburger and they have a mushroom and Swiss, do you order the mushroom and Swiss or do you just go plain cheeseburger?
I would rather eat dirt than a mushroom.
Wow. See, I rest my case, Your Honor. Number 1.
Or actually, you're on a croissant, but still, I'm with
Ew.
you.
They have a breakfast pizza that's unbelievable. You can buy it and cook it at home. You can get it in slices. You can buy a whole pie if you're going someplace for a breakfast meeting and you want to take breakfast. I don't know what's on it. I know there's eggs. I know there's cheese. I have no idea what the sauce is. And the crust is a croissant crust. Dude. French,
There you go.
Italian, I don't care where it comes from. That stuff's unbelievable. The
How
breakfast pizza.
often do you eat at this place?
I'll set the over-under at 4 times a week.
Yeah, I had to bow out. Although I will say this, when we were back in Thanksgiving, we're rolling in and I got to get gas. And they're like, can you stop here? And I'm like, let's just stop at the Quick Trip. And because I forget what it was that Tamara needed. I'm like, you can get it in there. Like, you can get it in there. Now remember, she's from Oklahoma, Quick Trip with a Q, right? Not this one. So then she walks in, she comes out, she's like, this place is unbelievable. Like, in there, and I'm like Juwan Glazers in a box or in a decorative tin. I'm like, I don't think we need any of those right now. It's 3 PM. I just needed gas. And if you got some heavy cream or whatever she was picking, like, we're fine. I don't get distracted. And that's the thing. You can get distracted in there. Like, I don't know what their gross revenue is, but let's say it's $100. I think probably like 32% of that is people going, ooh, and I'll get that while I'm here too. Right? Like, they think this, and then it's basically, it's like the gas convenience store Target. You go in thinking this is what I need, and then you come out and you're like, wait, how did I get all this stuff?
It's usually the first thing you see when you walk in a Quick Trip too. At least it is the one that's here in De Pere, and I love the breakfast pizza. It was number 1 on my list.
If I asked you, like, here you are, we're gonna prepare for this. I'm not saying you're Kobayashi or you're Joey Chestnut, but if I just put a tray of Glazers in front of you, how many do you think you could house before you'd have to say uncle?
I feel like
could you
there's
get-
6 There's
like,
6 in
you
a
get
box.
through a dozen easy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you get through a dozen. I want to know if you could, like, would you go 2 dozen? And we're not time limiting it, so you don't have to smash them. I don't
You
want
can't
to be
puke
gross.
either, right? You can't barf at those.
You
You're
cannot
the
have any Detrius or Roman moments, as they like to say. You cannot.
Yeah.
I bet you
would
could sit
say
down and eat 2 dozen.
the over-under I was going to say was 20. So 2 dozen is 24. Oh, now I want to try it.
Thanks for doing 25. The Great Trevor Glazer Eating Contest.
We should
That would
definitely
be
record
great.
that. Oh, man.
Put that down. You keeping notes on this? Keep notes.
Yep.
Okay. I keep them now, but it's all going to get lost in here with other stuff. I'm just trying to find the mortgage bill so they don't throw me out on day 2.
Some of my favorite moments on the Inside Wisconsin show are the ones that live forever. And our number one top 5 favorite moment, the top 5 Packers outside of Jordan Love.
Okay. So, all right. What do you got at number 5?
I have Braden Narvison.
Just so you know, that guy is number 4 on my list.
All right. I feel pretty good about that.
And I don't even, I have his name scribbled, but what I actually have there is just the kicker. Because I'm like you. I don't know if it's going to be that guy or not. So I have a kicker who currently filled by Braden Narvison that is who is currently occupying a spot 4, but it could be someone else in 3 weeks, but just the kicker.
So my number 1, knowing it can't be Jordan Love because it was everybody but Jordan Love. We might be a little bit on the same page here, and this might be a stretch, so I'm going to watch your reaction. Luke Van Ness.
That's a bold choice. That's that guy. So behind Jordan Love, the guy who's got to be the best player for the Packers is Lucas Van Ness.
If Luke Van Ness has a year, we will do very, very well because that means
I totally get that. But what if he doesn't? I think the team still has a lot of ways to win.
Then my number 1 is Jordan Love.
If Josh Jacobs goes, like if you lose Josh Jacobs or you lose Van Ness, which one of those bothers you more?
I think my point is if we don't play solid defense,
I didn't ask for your point. I asked for the answer to my question. Which one of those bothers you more? If you go, dang, we don't have Lucas Van Ness this weekend, or dang, we don't have Josh Jacobs.
Is Rashawn Gary playing out of his mind? Because I've never seen Josh Jacobs play in green and gold, so I'm going to go Luke Van Ness just to stick to my number 1.
That's a very bold choice.
Thank you.
The backup, the guy who's currently listed as a backup defensive end is the most important guy behind Jordan Love.
Number 2 in the depth chart for a reason.
So,
who's your number 1?
I went back to where you were. I think the number 1 is Xavier McKinney.
Okay.
I think he's the single most important guy. I need Rashawn Gary to be the best player on the defense, but I think given the money they paid him, right, which is out of character,
right?
What Hafley wants out of his defense, like I think that guy's the linchpin and runs it all, and so I think he's got to be there and he's got to be great, and he's the most important guy. Like it doesn't, if it's 6 interceptions, great. If it's stuffing the run and tackles, great. If it is forcing fumbles, if it's blitzing, whatever it is, I just think he's the guy that they specifically went and got with all this in mind. Hafley's got it. It's a guy he wants, and for the money he's making, I think after Jordan Love, he's the most important person.
I went to 2 Packer games with you in the last month. And Lucas Van Ness was a hot topic of conversation.
Well, was he in a top 5? That was just a straight. Maybe it was. It was the most important Packer. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Honestly, this is shaping up to be worse than Joe Thomas, which people are like, I don't know that you can be worse than Joe Thomas, right? How do you like Joe Thomas was a 27-car pileup on the highway.
Oh, jeez.
So like, how do you do worse than that? I guess maybe it's a 27-car pileup on the highway, but like 2 of the cars had signs that said baby on board. Like this is the worst take you've ever had. Who is, after Jordan Love, the most important and best player on the team? And you said Lucas Van Ness. Didn't say Josh Jacobs. Didn't say Xavier McKinney. And then your reasoning was like, well, because Rashawn Gary, who is supposed to be better than him, which you imagine, like if he goes bad, we need this guy. Like you were admitting that we needed this other guy to be more important, but you went to this third thing. And then we go to the game, and for the first 3 quarters, all that shows up, the only time Lucas Van Ness shows up is on the scoreboard saying, hey, let's go. And then occasionally, to take up a blocker on special teams. And you got this guy going to freaking Canton. Then he has a strip sack, and now you're completely out of your gourd.
Big fan.
And by the way, then he went and played Detroit and disappeared again. So that was really nice. Of course, most everybody on defense disappeared in Detroit. But yeah, that is. I am I'm compiling my list of worst Trevor takes ever in that top 5. So we got that. We've got Joe. We've got I'm sure. Oh man, that 25. That'll be my good one. Top 5 worst Trevor takes on this show.
Good luck reviewing that footage. Our top 5 moments in the top 5 list of 2024 on the Inside
That'll be
Wisconsin.
one of those where it's top 5, and then here are my 17 honorable mentions.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Hey, remember to subscribe on YouTube. Leave a review. Smash the like button. Just get with us. All right, J.A., so I've been to a Packer game or two in your seats, but I hadn't been in your seats with you in your seats.
I know.
And so we got to go. You're welcome.
Well, no, I mean, like, I know because, like, you were disappointed. Like, I didn't eat enough for you. I didn't drink enough for you. I didn't get out. Like, I just stayed there. This is crazy. I don't know if other people do this. When I go to a football game, I go to my seat and I watch the football game. That's why I'm there. Now, on occasion, tailgating, yep, I'll have the old Miller Lite before I pop in and do something. But once I'm there, I'm watching the game until the gun goes off. Even if we're ahead, I want to stay and celebrate. Like you are part of the traffic control. Like I am up and down and up. I got more exercise in the row I sat with. You, Amanda, and listen, you weren't the worst offenders by any means. You guys went out, once or twice. The other people were just like a constant, like, what is this, a relay race? You guys got a baton when you come back? But anyway, yeah. So I know I disappointed you a little bit in how I watch football because I, watch football.
Well, I think I disappointed you, but it has a lot to do with the atmosphere of the Packers game for me. And all of that revolves around those white cans filled with bliss called Miller Lite. And my favorite part of the game that we went to with Pete Lee was I thought I could house Miller Lites. That guy.
So
a record performance on.
He houses them, but he also kind of hoards one. Like you'd be sitting there and he'd like, hey, you want a beer? And I'm like, no, I'm good. He goes, no, you really need to have a beer. And you think, okay. And you'll figure, wait, he'll either have to go out or he's waiting for the guy to come by. And you finally relent. You go, okay. And then he just pulls one out and he hands it to you. I'm like, where are you storing these? So he's a hoarder. He houses them and then he hoards them too, which is amazing. Right next to the hand warmers, which I also had to get from like, dude, I don't need that. You look really cold. So finally I had to take him. I didn't want to be offended that he didn't have hand warmers.
I literally looked at you and was like, J.A., Kyle,
the hand warmers.
They're not.
Anyway. But yeah, like I don't know, like, and he wasn't like wearing cargo pants, but he had a lot of places where he kept the old Miller Lites. And by the way, they weren't ponies; they were substantial size.
We were responsible that game, and it's called strategy. One person can buy 2 Miller Lites, and so I bought 2, he bought 2, and then a little while later, I bought 2, he bought 2. But
so you're literally telling our audience that 2 and 2 is 4. Thanks.
Yep. Especially with 2 people. All right, moving on. Making memories at year-end gatherings, even at Lambeau Field with Miller Time. It tastes like Miller Time. Go to MillerLite.com/Inside Wisconsin to find delivery options near you, or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Tastes like Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium light beer. J.A., at the end of the year here, real quick, I want your prediction for how this whole Packers thing shakes out. What does it look like for my chances to drink Miller Lite maybe in the postseason?
Well, I think you'll get to, but you're going to do it at your house.
Yeah, not there, unfortunately.
That's the only thing. You won't be at Lambeau Field, or you won't be in the parking lot where you say to Pete Lee, "Oh, this is my wife, this is my mother," and he's like, "Would you like a beer?" And he pulls out yet another one in the parking lot. He's got another one. Here you go.
Pocket beers, pocket Miller Lites for everyone.
Right. You got to have big pockets, too, for him.
Not much on the Inside Wisconsin show hits the cutting room floor anymore. The majority of these interviews and our chats, we air almost in full. Some things, some people call them bloopers. Some people call them Trevor. Just happen from time to time.
Oh, are you saying, are you dominating this segment? Will we have more you than me?
Typically, yeah. Yes. If you think the bloopers are bad on the actual Inside Wisconsin show, wait till you see this blooper reel from Deeper Roots. I'm a living, breathing blooper reel when it comes to that piece of this show.
People think this is easy. Just get in front, start talking.
Not so much. Definitely not for me anyway.
Oh, by the way, do we have you ducking out of the way of my snowball that I hit you with?
Was that this? Yeah, that was way back in the beginning of this year. Wow.
Yeah,
that was wild. Where
Here,
it all
Trevor,
began.
drive up. I'm going to hit you in the windshield. I don't know. You really? I mean, it's not like I'm driving a city bus. Drive the car, Trevor. Let's see what happens.
We did.
Yeah.
Bam. All right, blooper reels 2024 inside Wisconsin. Let's be honest, Miller Lite is better with friends. I happen to have a friend. He's here.
No, you don't mention me at all.
Oh, at all?
None, nothing. There's nothing.
Okay.
No, you're just giving the read.
Okay.
No, you don't say anything.
All right.
There's nothing.
Okay.
You don't even know I'm here.
Got it.
How patient are you, though? Like, I get what the words are. Is that me?
It's not.
No, they're testing the system.
All right, hang on. Those of us with fancy big mansions and big fancy security systems, this is what happens.
Yeah.
Bougie.
Right. Who's got the bougie house?
No, I should say to make sure the sprinkler system works.
All right.
And make sure the when you have kids, make sure the smoke detectors work.
Sure.
Don't
Okay.
you ever did an interview with people? You hear that little chirping in the back?
Every once in a while.
That prevents that. Test it, then you have to replace the batteries. So
I am going to be the city bus. Anything for the show. Oh, boy. 1 for 1.
And then we also learned to do this when we were kids. How was that?
You should have heard the thud in here on the windshield. Part of me thought, holy crap, like we're going to have to have
It's a good arm though, right? Like I got it measured out. You never, 60 feet, 6 inches is like a universal distance.
You hit it the first time.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, 1 for 1. All of a sudden, bam, and the windshield up, 2 for 2. Now we're on our way to Southwest High School.
You're going the wrong way. We're going to go left.
Why do I think it's that way?
If you're trying to take the longest route possible, congratulations, you're right there.
Good old-fashioned bubbler.
In Boston.
I just literally jumped. Did you see this thing? All these places and stories that you keep telling us, I don't really have a way of seeing any of that.
They're all just bald-faced lies. I'm just trying to see what I can make up.
We hope you are enjoying the 2024 Best of the Inside Wisconsin show. Due to time constraints, we jump ahead in our blooper reel. Thank you.
It's a prerequisite of these shows. Better. Man, all right, here we go. To the bar. Is it dinner or supper?
We're a supper club, but we have dinner here.
I'm confused. Just tell me, are those ice cream drinks a pain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're $600 blenders. One broke last night. I'm like, oh, again?
Should we have a moment of silence for the blender that died last night?
Locals are very good to us.
So are those pesky people from Illinois, I heard.
We love Illinois people.
Of course you do. This is
Floyd.
Floyd.
Yeah.
And that's
Murphy.
I'm failing this test. You ever heard of the got your hand stuck in a cookie jar? I feel like the seat I'm sitting in just got wet, and it's not me. That's a great spot. Jane's Journey Home for Dogs. Jane's Journey Home for Dogs.
It kind of rolls off your tongue.
It rolls off your tongue, not mine, apparently. Eventually, you keep them all straight.
All the time. I never mess it up.
Are you fibbing? You're fibbing.
A little bit.
Gizmo.
This is Gizmo. Don't put him underwater. Hear that? You can't go swimming or you'll take over the world. Do it. Come on now. I'm 6'8", man. That's a long way down. Oop, going over. Obviously, we don't worry about FDA licenses when it comes to this type of stuff. But I mean, what is the end game?
Oh, we invite people to do podcasts.
Here we are. Spile.
It's called a or if you want to go old school and Canadian, spool.
Oh, hey. How many gallons of sap you make have to have. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Let's just eat some pancake. I gotta be honest, I usually don't go to the movies alone, but when in Rome, all right, off to the movies. Watch your head. I am gonna fall and bust my face. Okay, Trev, okay. What time does it start? 8:30? Half an hour. I'm gonna have 3 sodas and 4 things of this popcorn, and then I'm probably gonna fall asleep. Oh, that's really good. A little salty. That's on me. That's my fault. Go this way? Yeah, let's go this way. Oh, don't wreck the car. Oh, God. Oh, jeez. Oh. It's another episode of Deeper Roots with our friends at Blaine's Farm and Fleet. We are at Gillies Frozen Custard in Milwaukee. Awesome motorcycle. You know, we are in the city that founded Harley Davidson. There's going to be that. All right, Willie, we are inside your shop now. Gillies Frozen Custard.
You'll graduate to the zombie soon. But.
Do people ever order this?
Sorry, we're closed today, sir.
Okay.
Hey, have a good day.
Why are none of them wearing hats? Why am I the only one in this entire building in a hat, Willie?
Look how lucky you are.
You stand out.
Because I needed help not blending in, right? Do I need a hairnet?
Yeah.
Even though I don't have any hair. Definitely protecting the Jordans, I can tell you that much. Beard net. It gives me the impression that it's going to be messy. Is it messy?
No.
You know, it's not wet. Those weenie treats.
You didn't gag.
Oh, I
think-
gagged. You just didn't see it. It was
I don't
behind
know.
the
You look like
curtain.
you enjoyed it.
First time I've ever eaten dog food.
It could be your first and last time.
It is my last. I'm literally going to be like, what does lasagna love?
So lasagna is a layered
Right.
dish.
Okay. So it's going to be one of them.
Would you like to see my freezer?
Yes.
There are no bodies in
Okay,
it.
didn't know where that was going.
I've never dropped a lasagna though, so I'm very thankful about that. Probably happen now.
Please don't. Please, I will pick it up and eat it. I don't care. I am not doing a good job of the slopping.
So much slip. Oh my
Okay,
goodness.
All right. Okay. This is when I remind you, you invited us.
Technically.
We invited ourselves. You're right. So over there, they carry like 10 of these at one time.
Yeah, you want to practice?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think that's good for your business model. Do you speak German?
A little bit. Yeah.
Prost?
Prost, yeah. We're getting there.
What's a beer called?
Ein Bier.
That's how they say it? Beer?
Yeah.
Oh, it's B-I-E-R.
Yeah, it's beer. Yeah, exactly.
You know what the bad news is? That right there is going to make the show. How are you staying true to your family legacy? What are you doing to make sure I can't? There's a friggin' bee and I'm losing it. I am. Get out of here.
All right, so a special guest now here on the Inside Wisconsin show. Trev, just when we don't have the full show, we just go a little slice of cheese.
Yeah.
And we're happy to welcome in David Fulcher, played in a Super Bowl, an all-pro safety for the Cincinnati Bengals. I like to think a dear friend. Obviously, David, as you know, and I'm sure you hear all the time, if we could talk to your delightful and lovely wife, Judy, first, we would. I get that. I'm sure you get that all the time. But we're so glad that you're here. And we're so glad that you made Brett Favre. People talk about Kittrick Taylor and the pass, and Brett Favre comes in and is against the Bengals, and there's the touchdown, and then the guy plays for 20 years. And every time I look at that play, I never see you. And so it dawned on me, like, I wonder if you were there, because it was in the prime of your career. And it's always good when they have a key play and you're not in the photo. So you were there that day. What do you recall from Brett Favre showing up as a Green Bay Packer?
Well, you know what's funny, man, is I think it was Majkowski. Don Majkowski was the quarterback. And they called him the Magic Man. But he wasn't magic that day. And for some reason, man, we were dialed in on him, and all of a sudden, here comes Favre. And, you know, we heard of him, but we didn't prepare for him. And that was the day. That was the day that the dead man woke up. You know, I'll tell you something. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't do anything to him. And I'd have to say that the Cincinnati Bengals gave Brett Favre all he got in the National Football League, and he should probably send all of us a couple of donuts and make us feel good.
So you played long enough to see a bunch of backup quarterbacks, right? And we kind of know what they are. Like, at what point in the game did you go like, okay, wait, this is a different kind of backup quarterback right here. Like, this dude's got some ability.
But it didn't take long, man. It looked like he had I was kind of shocked that when he came in the game that he wasn't their starter because he had all the mechanics to be a great quarterback. And as you all know and what we know, is that when his career ended, he was one of the best. And Cincinnati probably, and we were favored. I mean, because I think we went down there with all the firepower and everything that we had. And for some reason, we couldn't, once he came in the game, we couldn't stop him. And, you know, you can tell when a quarterback has it. And when Favre stepped out on the field and the way he controlled the offense, even his smile. I mean, he had it wasn't one of those, you know, I think I'm the man smiles. It just looked like it wasn't cocky. He just knew what he was doing. And, you know, sadly for Cincinnati, we didn't fare well that day.
You couldn't prepare for Brett Favre because Brett Favre didn't prepare, especially at that point in his career. He literally just didn't. He just came in and threw it like crazy. I mean, that was a warm game in '92. no sleeves. The fans were in T-shirts. What do you remember most about playing at Lambeau Field back then?
Oh my gosh, cold. The one thing I like well, it's always cold in Green Bay. You know that. Lambeau Field, I'll tell you this here, man. I think it's probably one of the toughest places to play because it feels like the crowd is right there on the field with you, if that makes sense. Some stadiums are built, higher up in the air. I'm trying to get my hand there. Higher up in the air that way or this way. But Lambeau, I tell you what, man, it is historical. And he had those people jumping in the air, rocking around. And I will tell you this, that is probably one of the toughest places. Because when I went to the Raiders, I finished my career with the Raiders in Los Angeles before they went back to Oakland. We went down there in December, and it was minus 30 degrees. And I went out there with the Raider players. Now, you got to think about this. We're coming from 80 degrees in California. None of those guys wanted to come out of the locker room. So that's the intimidation that Lambeau Field throws out. But I will tell you this here, Brett Favre was he was a dynamite quarterback.
Wait a minute. So was that the Lambeau Leap Nick Bell fumbles game when the Raiders were called?
You guys are you're choppy going in and out. I did not hear that question. I apologize.
I'll try again. You got me here?
You're choppy again. It might be where I am, man. I'm in my I'm surrounded by a lot of brick. And every time I get on a podcast, especially on my phone, it's hard to hear. But yeah, so 1993, 93, 94, I was in Los Angeles with the Raiders after I left the Bengals. And we went to Green Bay to play the Packers in Green Bay. And it was flat out cold. When I say cold, we couldn't even take a shower after the game because the pipes were froze. That's how cold it was. And then you're talking about these Los Angeles football players who were living in that 80 degree, 70 degree weather. Took them out there in the cold. They didn't want to come out of the locker room.
So I'm going to keep trying this again. Hopefully you can hear me. That game with the Raiders, was that the day after Christmas, Nick Bell fumbles Lambeau Leap game? Because that was the Raiders and it was so cold.
It could have been. I tell you what, we didn't. It wasn't a close game. It wasn't a close game. And I'm trying to figure out. Oh man, it was I only played there 1 year with the Raiders, so it was our 93-94 season, or the 94-95 season.
Did you lose 28-0 by chance? Do you remember that 28-0? Did you lose 28-0?
I think we did. It was we had Jeff Hostetler as our quarterback. It was ugly. It was very ugly.
I'm not going to lie. We need you to get back in the league, man, because every game that you played in against the Packers was a fairly epic game, apparently.
Well,
not that one.
It wasn't.
Not that one. That
game
was pretty ugly, man.
It wasn't in 94. Let's see.
December 26, 1993.
93.
Roy Butler jumped into the stands after scoring a touchdown against the LA Raiders. 93-94. I guarantee that was it.
Yeah, that was it.
That was me.
Jeez,
Dude,
unreal.
You are a walking history thing. That's crazy. So in the Bengal game though, you're not in the picture. Where are you when Favre throws the touchdown pass? Because I don't know who 25 is and I don't know who 34 is. Those were the two guys that were chasing him.
I think I was on the sideline. I know Dick LeBeau and our defense, and I don't even know if Dick LeBeau was still our defensive coordinator. Maybe it was Ron Lynn. We had so many. I think football started changing, John, as I got towards the end of my career. We used to have a fullback, a tailback, a tight end. Then they started going 4 and 5 wides. They would take David off the field because they would put smaller, faster DBs out there to cover those receivers. Because I was normally covering a guy out of back, a tight end. They started changing the game of football. So I probably was standing on the sideline when that particular play happened.
All I know is it was a 40-yard pass, and that guy threw a rope. I don't know if you remember what the pass looked like, but it was that guy. He hummed it.
The one thing I could say about Brett Favre was, to me, like you look at some of the quarterbacks today, the Josh Allens, big guys. You know, Brett Favre was a linebacker playing quarterback. His mentality, his mindset was just flat out crazy. kind of guy that would just take a stick and put it in his mouth and chew it. Tim Crumry, our nose tackle, used to take the tape that they would tape his wrists up, and he would ball it up into a big ball and put it in his mouth and chew it the whole entire game. That was Brett Favre.
This takes 3 degrees of cheese to a whole new level, J.A. This is 3 degrees of some of the biggest Packer moments ever with David Falter.
By the way, Trev, do you know who Tim Crumry is?
No.
Probably one of the greatest defensive linemen ever. Played at Wisconsin, from Mondovi, Wisconsin.
Yes.
And was just that. Like you said, that guy was all. He might have played in cowboy boots, but he was just all football player, wasn't he?
Hey, I'll tell you. You say cowboy boots. He would come to every game with a pair of cowboy boots on, and we used to always say something to him. Say, Timmy, man, are you gonna play in your cleats or are you gonna play in them cowboy boots? And I'll tell you something. He would play in those cowboy boots if he could.
Yeah. Trev, he was from Mondovi, Wisconsin. He played with one of his high school teammates who was the quarterback briefly, a guy named Jess Cole. But now we're way off the thing. We're just going to – David, thank you for popping in. Although I'm wondering now, since you've been there for the Lambeau Leap and the Favre game, I'm pretty sure you probably played for the Cowboys in the 67 championship game. And you probably were on – you might have been on the field too for the Bears when the Marco Miracle happened, since you seem to be in town for every big game. But you're the best. My best to you, my best to Judy, and we'll talk to you soon.
Y'all take care, man. See you later, brother.
Thanks, David.
Bye.
We want you to do a whole lot more than just save money. We want your money to grow, just like your dreams. We want you to achieve financial well-being and the feelings that go along with that. Capital Credit Union, doing the right thing.
And that is a wrap of another year under our belt at the Inside Wisconsin show.
That didn't feel like that took a year.
Yeah, right.
That went by way faster.
Yeah, it did. There's a lot of cooking this year, man. A lot of change, both for you and for me. Thank you for barely mentioning my Achilles this episode. I appreciate that. All is continuing to trend well in that category.
Good to know. Listen, I it's hard to see your limp on this show when you're seated. Now, honestly, as you know, I'm praying for you when you get up because you've had problems with that too.
Easy.
Okay.
All is well.
I know. I'm looking some things up here real quick. Keep going. I want to see something.
So 2024 was the fourth year of the Inside Wisconsin show, knowing that we start our season in April for season 5, yet we try to recap the end of the year. Episode 99 is next, just after the new year. That episode drops January 2nd. Also, before I forget to mention, make sure to go to InsideWisconsin.com/shop. We have some new gear out, some really cool hats, some sweatshirts, some hoodies. Make sure to check it out, InsideWisconsin.com/shop. I sent you the link and said, let me know what you want. And you said, if I bring more things in this house, Tam will kill me.
Right.
Too many boxes already.
I'm kind of in the old, if you bring one in, then something has to go out. And I'm not in that position right now to figure that out. So I just can't.
If you have more things like
if you brought in toothpicks, I'd turn you out. I'd turn you around at the door. You're going to have to take those back.
Well, I appreciate the Zuba pants that you sent and the faux ESPN parking ticket. What was that? That's a John Wisconsin in and of itself.
Well, if you're going to tell me my favorite John Wisconsin, I have not. Listen, I tell you, it's hard to tell the favorite because, like I said, all I get to do is talk about myself. So it's my favorite part of the show. Here, let's be narcissistic. And here's John talking about John. But it's what people don't know is, so I randomly in the packing come across the Zuba pants, right? And I'm like, okay, well, there's only one deal. Here's what now has since amazed me. A, how excited you were about them. B, that I got texts from Trevor like, have you sent them? They're not here yet. I still haven't gotten the pants.
That's true.
Right? So you're like, dude, I got 9,000 things going on. And you're literally like, are the Zubas in the mail? Like,
go.
So
they fit too. They fit.
Right. And then 3, they fit. You send me a picture. And I'm like, oh my God. First off, I don't even remember how I got them. And B, how did I get them in a size that they fit, a Philistine? Like, this is just ridiculous. And then the joy on your face, you're just radiating this. Like, so it's fun. Amazing. It's an amazing picture. But yeah, the best part of that was finding them. But when you sent me the text, hey, can you do this? How's your schedule? Can we get the next guy on this date? Can you tape? And oh, by the way, the Zuba pants aren't here yet.
If you want to meet me on Brewers opening day in 2025, I'm the guy in the giant Zuba pants.
Sorry, dude, I'm packing up the 4,000 square feet of this house, but let me make sure I also get these in the mail.
Hey, man, you
So-
got me
and then
excited.
I did send you a parking ticket from
What was
ESPN.
that? So fun.
So there was a time, and this is serious. You know, we ESPN was so big and growing, and we had so many people, we did not have enough parking. Sadly, by the time I left, you could park anywhere you wanted. Right? We had let enough people go. There had been enough downsizing, head counts, all this other stuff that people have read about, and so now parking is not a problem. But boy, back in the day, it was. And so people would park in all the spots. Then they'd kind of park in spots that weren't spots. They'd put one more piece, one more car on the end. They'd park on the sides where it wasn't. And so it got so bad that ESPN started giving away kind of literally what parking tickets. Now, they didn't do anything. They couldn't fine you. There was no thing. They just were kind of letting you know. And then if you had enough of them, let's say you're John Anderson, you might have 10, and then you'd get called in by your guy like, dude, could you just stop? So what I used to like to do is I'd get the parking ticket, like literally I got tons of them. Because like, what are you going to do? This is literally like, there's nothing here. I don't think you're going to fire me, not because I'm on sports. I don't think you're going to fire anybody because of a parking ticket. That's not real.
Level 5 on that thing said you're going to get your wheel locked. Like you wouldn't be able to drive away.
Yeah.
That ever happened?
Never read it that close.
Okay.
So but what I'd like to do is when I'd take them and then I'd go find Stan Barrett's Mercedes that he was very proud of. And I'd always put them under Stan's windshield. And Stan would always usually be legally parked. He came in a little different of the day part. So I just put him under. And he would complain. I'm like, God, I gotta call people. I don't know why I'm keep getting this parking tickets. And then finally looked at it one time really close, and he realized it was the make and model was my car. Like it was my license plate and all this stuff. He's like, what are you doing? I drove him nuts for like a year and a half, giving him my parking tickets. And then I kept a couple that I have in my, because then like you do, I'd park illegally, and then I'd take one of the old ones and I'd put it under the windshield like I'd already gotten the ticket, so they wouldn't put the new one on. That way it only looked like you had 3, even though you should have had 50. Right. So I'd put one in. You never did that? This is perfect. Yeah. Okay. Tip to your kids. If you get a parking ticket at work where they really don't mean anything, just take the old one, put it on the windshield, and when the meter maid or the meter man goes by, he's going to go, already got this guy. We'll move on. You got it. Listen, Trev, there are a lot of ways to get around stuff. You got to be creative.
Yeah, the fake ones. Do it with the fake ones, not the real ones.
Real
You'll
ones,
go to jail for
they're
that.
going to add up the total when the real one comes by, or put the real lock on. So anyways, for a long time, I had me and I'd get called in by a wonderful fellow by the name of Jerry Madeline. He was, John, could you just do, and then it was Jack Obringer after Jerry left. And he's like, could you just stop? And I'm like, how about we let go 1,000 people and then we'll have parking spots. And then that solved the whole thing. But yeah. And so I had some extras. So I just included one for you so that you could have it. I'm surprised it's not sitting on the back of the wall. Like you could go right between your shelves, the top shelf and the lower one, over your left shoulder. It would fit right in there. Your ESPN.
I will make it happen for 2025.
And by the way, if you ever go visit, throw it under your windshield just to see what happens.
I would love to visit again, but I feel like that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
And so too has the Inside Wisconsin show in 2024. Fun year, JA. Appreciate you very much. Appreciate all the guests that joined, all the work behind the scenes of members of our team that have gotten us to this point. January 2nd, 2025, episode number 99, and the start of what will become our 5th season on the Inside Wisconsin show. Oh, by the way, make sure to send me your new address because I was told there would be no math, but after 99 comes 100, and you said, if we get to episode number 100, I want a cake. And I haven't forgotten about that. So allow the cake to come in. It may or may not be made of Glazers.
24 of them. That'll be the over and under.
Maybe so.
So
as you were, Wisconsin, we'll see you in the new year. What's on my head, Dan?
A hat.
Oh, thanks.
That would be something that back in the 1800s you'd have to wear as you're walking around town, wherever you're going. That would have been the proper thing to do. Helps in the summertime, keeps the sun off you. But everybody would have been wearing hats.
I don't know what you're talking about, Dan. Farmers, brewers, hunters, packers, badgers, cheeseheads, neighbors. No matter what name we go by, we are bound together by our roots. These are the people, the stories, and the patriotism from inside Wisconsin. Welcome to Deeper Roots with Blaine's Farm and Fleet. We are at Old World, Wisconsin in Eagle, Wisconsin. That would make sense, right? Old World, Wisconsin in Wisconsin. Dan Hess, our guy that's going to teach us so much about the deep roots of Wisconsin. Another episode of Deeper Roots with our friends at Blaine's Farm and Fleet. Dan, I love country living, and I live in the city. So I feel like you're going to teach me a thing or two today about how Wisconsin used to live, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've, here at Old World, Wisconsin, we've got over 60 historic buildings from all over the state of Wisconsin, actually, and over 600 acres here. So we've got our village here that we're in today, right now, but then we've also got numerous farms all across the site here, too.
Your gig here is teacher, but also blacksmith, which we're going to learn about in a little while. You do some leather work. I love that, like you make your own clothes. What's your story here?
So I'm actually the Living History Program coordinator here. So I coordinate our historic trades, our historic crafts, our historic foodways and cooking, as well as our interpretation of agriculture here in Wisconsin, which is a lot of stuff, but it's kind of what a lot of the big things that people would have been doing back in the 1800s.
There's got to be something specific where you go, if there was one thing that I hope you take away from us coming here and telling this story and learning about just the 30,000 foot view of the deep roots.
Yeah.
What do you want my kids to know?
Old World, Wisconsin itself, we're extremely hands-on. So we're not just here to be talking at people about it. We're here handing you something to try it out here and not just learn by watching or hearing, but to learn by doing.
Why is that important?
You understand it better, I think. You can hear something and, oh, that's a cool fact. But to say, yeah, I tried cutting that hay down with the scythe and it was not easy. That's a different understanding than just hearing about it.
So we're transitioning from this beautifully warm wood-fired building to, are those buildings heated where we're headed, Dan?
Not right now, but they would have been heated in the same way as this is.
Don't you have to have heat to blacksmith?
So yeah, we'll be lighting our forge up. It takes a few minutes to get it up to temperature, but that forge gets over 3,000 degrees. So we're burning wood in here. We'll be burning something else once we get over to the blacksmith shop.
So at Old World, Wisconsin, this is one of the trades that you man, if you will. And today I asked, we are making hooks.
Yeah.
And what were the hooks used for?
So you could use a hook in your smokehouse. So, to hang your meat to smoke it in there. You could use it to put up on your wall to hang whatever you needed to in the kitchen or wherever else. So they're a nice, relatively simple thing that kind of gives you a good idea of some of the skills that a blacksmith would have needed to know.
I doubt I'm reaching my hand in there. Just a guess. So take us through the process.
So we've got a pair of tongs, we've got a hammer, we've got our anvil. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this piece of steel out into a point. So that's probably
I wouldn't touch that.
No, don't touch it.
Full disclosure, I don't even know what blacksmithing is. What do you do when you blacksmith?
So it's metalwork. So back in the 1800s, most of what blacksmithing would have been doing, it's kind of like a car mechanic today. So they would have been making horseshoes, and they actually would be doing metalwork, but also had to know horses and animals. They'd had to work, trim their feet, put those shoes on, but they're also repairing farm equipment, repairing wagons. They have to be able to do a little bit of woodworking too. So there's a lot of different things, but blacksmithing is really kind of the basis for a lot of our trades today. Put a curl on it. So now I'm gonna actually lean it up against my thigh there, and it just curls right up for us.
Wow.
I'm gonna cool the tip of it off there so I can hammer on it. It's still hot, right? Now I'm gonna hammer. So there's our hook.
Wow. I'm going to go on a limb and say that mine's not going to look like that. Let's give her a shot. I have done a thing or two on this show. Never anything with 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit attached to it. So slightly sweaty palms, but I think we can do her.
So then you're going to want to put it right on the edge there. Yep. And hammer down. Now turn it.
I'm going crooked already.
Yep, that's okay.
We've lost our orange.
That's okay. That means it's too cold and you got to heat it up again. So first thing to remember when you're learning how to do this, in order to heat it up, you need to crank the blower.
Crank the blower.
Yep. That's probably hot enough.
Ooh, is that yellow?
That's getting close.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Yep. Looking good. Honestly, for most folks, the most difficult thing to learn at the beginning is being able to put the hammer where you want it.
Yep, that was great timing for that.
That's good. All right, so we'll heat it up again, and then we'll put the curl on it, and we'll put a hook on it. So now you're gonna hammer right over that edge a little bit. Good, all right. Now you're gonna turn it over. You're gonna kind of brace it up against your leg and hammer back toward yourself. Looking good. And it's cooling off, so I think we're gonna heat it up one more time. So first thing, you're gonna cool just the very tip of it off so you can hammer on it. Just a little bit more. That's good. Now you're gonna turn it over. Now hammer straight down at it. And then we're gonna feed it through. Now pause a second. You're gonna hammer right there, just over the edge. Yep. Keep feeding it through. And we'll flip it over like that. Go ahead and hold on. Yep. Hammer kind of straight down. Pause for a second. Hammer straight down. Look at that.
Is that okay?
That's great. For the first time, it's fabulous.
Ha! Now you
go for it.
And then, sweet, look at that. All right, let's go try to make some leather. We're making leather? No. Yeah?
We're making things with leather.
So the leather's already made.
Leather's already made.
We're just gonna go make something.
Yep.
What are we making?
We're gonna make one of our Christmas ornaments, actually.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, and at the time of this taping, not so white outside. Yet, Old World Wisconsin does an incredible job of bringing that holiday to life here. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we've got our Home for the Holidays event going on last weekend and this coming weekend. But it is a Christmas event, but also talking about a lot of the other different holidays, whether that's Hanukkah or St. Nicholas Day, or we talk about New Year's and how people in the 1800s would have celebrated all of these different holidays. So you can come and partake in those things. We've got wagon rides. You can shop here in the general store with our time travel tokens, actually, and all kinds of different fun, festive things. One of the things that guests can come and make is actually a ornament that they can take home. This is the stamp that we have for Home for the Holidays. So we get these made for us. What guests can come and do is take their hammer, and I'm gonna hand that to you so I don't have to hold it. And then wherever you want to on there, you can try to do it in like 2 or 3 hits.
Holy loud. Why? Why so violent?
And then we've got some other shapes and things like that. So
a Christmas tree, that's a reindeer. Let's do it. That's a buck. This is really fun.
Yeah.
I haven't whacked a finger yet. That's probably why it's so fun. As you teach here, whether it's leather making or blacksmithing or any of the other talks that you do, now is the good time to say, what do you hope the takeaway is for these people that are learning from you?
I hope they take away that history isn't just dates and famous people, that they learn more about the stories of the everyday people here in Wisconsin.
You do a great job of painting the picture and making sure that we don't take for granted, I think, what we have. The roots are what got us here, and if we forget about them, then it's unfortunately what's going to get us back there. Mm-hmm. So thanks for the work that you do and for the education that you provide and for the roots that you're establishing, not only here at Old World Wisconsin, but in the state. And I hope somebody is a protege of yours so that whenever 30 years from now you're done doing this, somebody else can pick up where you left off. It's called an apprenticeship. Dan, I'll tell you about that someday. Yeah. Thanks for having us, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. We actually have our own brewery here on site that we brew like they did back in the 1800s as well.
Today?
It's pretty cold in there today.
Is the beer cold in there today?
I'm sure it is.
Well, then screw the leather making and whatever else we're doing. Let's go there. Your point is much pointier.
I've done a few thousand of them, so.
I got to take something home to them and be like, get your stuff together, put your Xbox down, and let's go cut some hay with a knife. It doesn't get much deeper rooted Wisconsin than that. Blacksmithing, leatherworking, all the things. We're grateful for Dan and everyone over at Old World Wisconsin for making this episode possible. If you've never visited Old World Wisconsin, get on it. Maybe you haven't been there since your school field trip days. Make your way back. They've got seasonal programs, events, and I hear there's Old World beer coming in the spring. Consider me there. Plan your visit at oldworldwisconsin.wisconsinhistory.org. If you know a deep-rooted story that you'd like us to share, make sure to head to the website farmandfleet.com/deeperroots and fill out the form. We'd love to hear from you and share your story in 2025. As always, on the YouTube channel, like us, subscribe, and let us know what you loved about the episode in the comments below. And if you're a podcaster, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review. We'd really appreciate that. All right, Wisconsin, that's a wrap on Deeper Roots for 2024. We will see you next year.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Remember to subscribe on YouTube, leave a review, smash the like button, just get with us.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, Blaine's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, Miller Lite, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, and the University of Wisconsin-Platteville.
Shut up and sit down.